Hi guys, today we have Chaitanya for the Conversations podcast episode. Chaitanya is basically a impact consultant who's pursued public policy in the National Law School in Bengaluru, and his postgraduate dissertation was understanding walkability in Indian cities, specifically the Mumbai metropolitan region, where he did research on three localities in Mumbai. And this is something which was extremely interesting to me. And I've always wanted to have actual research which is done in this city to be put forward so that we can better understand what goes on in our cities and what are the small nitty-gritties that we experience in all of these neighborhoods and what are the differences. And as Walking Project, through our community walks and all, we have talked a bunch about Indian Roads Congress guidelines, this and that, which are very hard set in stone things, but not implemented. But research is something I feel which helps us understand why it doesn't get implemented. What are the problems that cause? What are the problems that are keeping our cities from implementing, and what are the nuances that prevent us from implementing those properly? And what are the problems with the guidelines themselves, not just the non-implementation of those things? And let me give you a brief background about how we met Chaitanya. So Chaitanya, for the first time, we had met during the community walk we had hosted in Thane, which was from Kopat to Brahmaya Lake. And that was the first time we met, and we had a great conversation for a good half an hour, I think 45 minutes after the actual event. And it was really fascinating and lovely to talk to him back then. And that was what, 7 8 months ago. And I had immediately at that point given him an offer, okay, we should record a whole episode on your whole research topic. And so thankfully we have finally come to doing recording it, and hopefully it will be out in a couple of days. So yeah, Chaitanya.
Yeah, thanks, Vedant. Thanks, Aishwarya, for having me. It's been really lovely. I feel like I'd come across the Walking Project's work a few months before we actually met, and uh, coincidentally, I was away from Mumbai for a very long time, like a few years, and I remember thinking, I think when I'd finished my research, that's when the organization became active. And I remember thinking that, okay, hey, if these guys would have been active when I was doing my research, that would have been great. But like after that, I just wasn't in the city to engage substantially. And I remember I saw the Thane walk notification or the posts just maybe a day or so after I
Oh
moved
wow.
back to Mumbai. So I think it's just happenstance or maybe like just a really good coincidence. But I'm really glad that happened, and I'm glad to be talking to you guys today. So yeah, let's get started.
Yeah, I think I should first thing I should ask, what made you choose this topic for dissertation?
So, I mean, just a little bit of context about me. I was born and raised in Mumbai, well, Thane. Depends on whether you count that as Mumbai or not. But and my parents are the kind who just walked and took public transport everywhere. The most they would do is take an auto. Uh, Growing up, driving, like we had a car, but driving wasn't really a thing because Mumbai is such a walkable city inherently. Our urban fabric is super dense. And it's a compact city, which not a lot of other cities have that to their credit, right? And I mean, after I grew up, after I got my driver's license, I have a driver's license which I got at age 18, 19 something, but I basically just use that as ID proof. I haven't driven since I did my driving test. And I'm very proud of it.
Wow.
Great to walk around. Of course, there are its kinks which we're looking to like fix, but with all that in mind, I remember thinking that, okay, when I got the opportunity to do the research as a part of my postgrad, I remember thinking that, okay, hey, let me pick an issue that is very close to my heart because I was going to be working on it for a year, probably a little more than a year. So, and to engage with something to that extent, you need to be really interested, invested in it. So that was the reason why I picked it. And it was a no brainer because for me, walkability as a concept existed at the sort of intersection of something that I was interested in infrastructure development and policy, as well as human behavior, right? You can hack the other two, perhaps. You can hack human behavior. You have to work around it. So for me, thinking about it from an academic legal policy lens, that was a very fascinating opportunity, and that's why I sprung upon it when I was given the chance.
That is super interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think right now the audience, when they're watching it, probably don't know what the exact title of the dissertation even is. So, can you brief about what you delved into through this research topic?
Sure thing. So the title of the dissertation is Integrating Walkability in Indian Cities, a study in the Mumbai metropolitan region. So it's essentially understanding what the concept, because walkability is a slightly jargony term, right? It's
Yeah.
thrown around by anyone and everyone, but not, I don't think anyone really knows what it means. There is no consensus in the halls of power, in the government also, what it means. We all seem to think that walkability matlab theek hai, good footpaths
Footpaths,
is what
right.
walkability is, but
Yeah.
there's so much more than that, as your work has also shown and as my conversations on field have also shown. Just putting a good footpath doesn't cut it. And
Yeah.
so I as a part of my research, is I looked through a lot of literature to identify a gap. So this was one of the gaps that I identified, that there is a nebulous understanding of what walkability is. Maybe I can just show you my presentation that has some visuals in it, so that might be helpful. And
Sure.
of course, it does talk about the dissertation as well. So some of it, like we can just quickly run through the slides. This is visible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, the title picture is just me walking through Kotachiwadi, which
Oh,
I
wow.
found really beautiful, a very tranquil place to walk in. The Heritage District really well kept also, but just identified that there is broad administrative neglect towards pedestrian priorities and policies. Let's be real, the city is being built for cars. More and more infrastructure projects are being built so that they're like grand, and rather than
Yeah.
the fixes that will actually make that Pareto optimal difference, right? Those 20% fixes that will have 80% of that impact. We're not moving in that direction. We're moving in the completely opposite direction, where you want those high budget, big budget, grandstanding things where our political leaders will also get a little bit of applause and be
Yeah.
hailed as visionaries, and it's actually not a visionary measure. And just like that, I also wanted to look at how walkability, or the concept of walkability, fits in the varied usage patterns and priorities. Because, like I said, people think that walkability is just having a clean footpath, but it's more than that. Walking to, like, you're walking to buy vegetables on the street, you're walking to engage with your friends on the street. So you need to have space for that. So that spatial design is also what I wanted to think about. And this finally what we spoke about, the nebulous definition of walkability itself, because right now it's being shaped by influences of the West. So North America, Western Europe, their influences, where they say that matlab, the only thing to have good this thing is build a cycle track. This is Mumbai. We can't cycle in this city because it's just so hot. I have tried, and you end up drenched in like sweat. So you need to carry two pairs of clothes. And of course, it is also shaped by affluent groups, where the average citizens in the city, they don't, that needs aren't really factored in. So with these three in mind, I actually have a visual where you can see these three in real time. So these are three photographs from three of my study areas. So the first one is from Vileparle, where you just see administrative neglect. It was dug up for something, and because pedestrians are not a priority, it was just left. And you can see by there's plants growing in it, so it's not just dug up yesterday and photographed tomorrow. It's probably been there for a few weeks at least. And varied usage patterns. This was taken in Mankud and Govandi, which was another of my study areas. So people want commerce, saying that that's not something that is desirable, but it's going to stay. It's here to stay. We need to work
Yeah.
around. And the nebulous definition of walkability. How should we do our streets? How should we do our pavements? Just what does the whole thing entail? So this third picture is from Cuff Parade, an affluent area. But yeah, these were the research objectives. I won't get into the academic part of it. Just wanted to break that down and say that I wanted to look at the viewpoint of the state from how the state is thinking about it. I also wanted to see how people are thinking about it. So how local representatives are thinking about it. So perspectives of various stakeholders in that sense. And the third thing I wanted, because I was coming at it from a public policy lens, after doing all of this analysis, I wanted to actually make policy recommendations so that we can have a systemic change instead of just ad hoc, haphazard change at a local level. Uh, but yeah, and these are the questions that I wanted to answer. What is walkability? Holders perceive walkability. So my major lens was that across socioeconomic class. So I work like the three study areas that I mentioned: Mankut, Govandi, Vilepale East, and Cuff Parade, are proxies for low income, medium income, and high income areas in the city. So while I understand that they all have their local nuances, and they can't be perfectly representative, uh, these are proxies for the mindset as a whole. So that was one of the research questions that I wanted to answer, that how do different types of stakeholders, how do poorer citizens in the city versus rich citizens in the city perceive walkability or pedestrian friendliness? And how does the legal framework, the existing legal framework, like how does it accommodate the formulation and implementation for pedestrian movement, and how can we make it better, right? So, and uh, yeah, and also looking at the third question, where what is the on ground implementation? Is it the same as how they planned it, or is it drastically different? So these are the broad questions. uh, and of course, this is just the map on which there are the three study areas outlined. So there's Vilepale East in the west, in the northwest. There's Mankud and Govandi in the east, and Cuff Parade at the almost southern tip of the city. And just the way I did it was through primary research. I spoke to people on ground. I spoke to local residents. I spoke to political representatives. So back then, this was done in 2022. We still had local cooperators at that time, which is a sad state of the city that 3 years down the line, we
Yeah.
still say the same. I also did observational research. I extensively walked through each of these study areas. So they're a little oddly shaped, all of them. Like you see their polygons are really badly shaped because I wanted to capture all of the regions where I'd actually walked, and not
Mm.
just suburban boundary as such. So Mankud and Govandi taken together would probably be a little larger than this, but the parts that you see here, they're a little wonky because that's all the streets that I walked on. So give or take, on all of these field visit days, I was clocking in 25,000 steps per day. And needless to say, I
Wow.
loved it, but that was a whole different thing. And then secondary research, I looked at the master plans, the policies in place for walkability, and the standards laid down in like by the government of India about how street design should be. And then, of course, the coding analysis and all of that was the post facto stuff. So yeah, we can. I think that was it about the methodology. Like we can take let this flow into a conversation, and then I can show you the rest of this slideshow as needed.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you asked me, I skimmed through the conclusion section because I have still not gotten time to read the entire thing. I'm very much interested in reading the whole thing because it is fascinating. Even the conclusion section got me so hooked while reading that I ended up reading the entire thing in one go. So, in the research, you quote this, and towards the very start, key wealthier parts of the city prefer streets to be exclusively used as conduits for transit and mobility. To that effect, they prefer stricter segregation of functions such as commerce and socialization. Given the limited space available on the streets, in contrast, the comparatively poor residents tend to focus on a more mixed nature when it comes to street use. They accept commercial activity on the streets and encourage it in some cases as cost-effective options for shopping near the place of residence. Outweigh the need for aesthetically pleasing segregated streets. So basically, you're saying ki, uh, so with this kind of got me confused a little, but I think it is fairly covered. Uh, when you say the when you say that, do you when you say make this point, do you mean that segregation in the sense wealthier areas don't prefer having on-street hawkers, or would that be or they do not like mixed use in general? Like, would a Parisian street which has much better aesthetics and also have the mixed use development, they prefer that? Or did you have research on that? Hmm.
Sure. I'll head back to the slideshow to have a visual on uh, in front of us. But just want to touch upon what you read out, right? So the perceived functions of the street. So before I actually answer your question, just a little bit of context for our listeners as well. That the four perceived functions that I got from the field were that people want some space to move, actually walk through. So the transit function, a commercial function where the hawkers that you mentioned, and also the stores where the streets act as. So if you look at this second photograph, uh, there isn't space for the person to go inside the store. They're essentially standing on the pavement and interacting with the store owner as like on a counter. So your pavement needs to accommodate for that also, like the dead zone that
Yeah,
we'll get to that a little later, I'm sure. But so essentially a commercial function of the street as well, and a social function. They function as third spaces for a lot of residents who don't have space where. This is a photograph. I'm not sure if it's clear, but it's from a school. So there are benches and there is a lot of spillover space for students and parents to actually come out and wait after school or before school. So it's excellent to look at. And of course, it's not a very well-off school, because so you see that white board in the photograph. Right
yeah.
behind that, there was a classroom. I could see
Oh,
children
wow.
studying in there. So
Was it outdoor?
no, it wasn't outdoor. It was
Okay.
a room with like a large door. So that was the door. So I'm assuming that this school would have had, like, it had two or three of these classrooms where students were literally sitting right there. Like I could see what they were being taught on the blackboard. But that aside, to answer your question specifically as to wealth and how that like boils down to it. So just these four functions are analogous to what the IRC is also telling us, right? The
Yeah,
IRC cross section of a pavement or of the streetscape also says that, yeah, you need to have walking space, which is the transit function, and the multi-use zone, which will encompass the commercial, social, and buffer space also. So the commercial can also come into the dead zone. Vedant, maybe you can put up
yeah, yeah. I
a
have
visual.
I'll
Yeah.
put up the graph.
Yeah, perfect. So the walking zone, the multi-use zone, which where you can put in benches, where you can keep space for people to stand while they're waiting for a bus, while they're waiting for the school to let out, or just space for hawkers to stand, or that entire space, that cross section, even buffer space. I think the IRC accounts for that parking separately. Like I think parking is on the
Yeah.
carriageway, right? So the people that I spoke to wanted parking also to be taken care of, because they didn't know about the IRC. No one does.
This is the shoulder portion, not the
It's the
carriage.
shoulder portion. Yeah. Okay. Right. Perfect. So that also, so these perceived functions, the people who don't know about the IRC also subconsciously think in the same way as our guidelines do. But your question about like commerce, right, specifically. So from what I spoke to the people, and these were the residents of Kafpare that I spoke to, they were very against having hawkers on the street. So this sort of commercial usage, and like I said earlier, Kafpare is just a proxy for wealthier citizens. Other neighborhood, you go walk in maybe Walkeshwar, you go walk in Worli, in around other parts of Churchgate Station. They're all the same. You will not find any
Yeah,
street side vendors standing on the pavement and selling, uh, because they look at the usage patterns of the residents there, right? No one's stepping out in the morning to buy vegetables. Either they have people to help them out with that, or they'll order it online or something of that sort, right? uh,
yeah,
Yeah.
it gets delivered, or they go to a store and purchase it. rather than purchasing it street side. So that's not really a priority for them. So this is out entirely. And the mixed use concept that you mentioned, the Champs-Elysees or the Fifth Avenue style boutiques lining an avenue, right? Uh,
Yeah.
that that I feel like it's very it's a contentious point for them, because uh, I'm not sure how many of our listeners know Marathi, but there is a very beautiful like quote in Marathi which says Shivaji Janma Apan Shejarcha Gharat, which means that if anything great has to happen, let it happen in my neighbor's house. So they want these boulevards, they want these commerce, these boutiques and studios, but they don't want them happening near their house, because that attracts
Yeah.
parking, that attracts visitors, that disturbs their calm. So they want that to happen, but not near where they live. So mixed use zoning is good if it happens somewhere else, not near my house. So it's a very not in my backyard approach when it comes to higher wealth uh, commerce, but lower wealth commerce is like entirely a big no-no. So in Cuff Parade, when I walked around, so this first photographs from there, you just walk down ahead on the street, you will see maybe like one of the BMC kiosks that you have, or the R.A. Sarita kiosk. It
Yeah.
it narrows down the walking space, and those were quoted as the biggest problems by the residents. They were like, "Oh, we can't walk there because of that." When I mean, they're actually very well off when you compare to the other parts of the city where there is no pavement. So I mean,
Yeah.
that is one sort of nitpicky point on that one. But I feel like mixed use zoning can exist in higher wealth areas, but there will be a lot of what do you call it, like convincing that will need to happen, right?
So I feel like people, I mean, this is again coming from not just bikes, but the statement that cities aren't loud, vehicles are loud. It
Yeah.
feels like we try to have that calm and peace, and in that thing, we completely do away with anything that is making noise, except vehicles. Because for any kind of commercial activity under your building, you would have some amount of buzz or something, but nowhere close to what it would feel like in a purely residential, like a vehicle. Vehicle noise will be very heavy. If you would have something like an Amsterdam street where it's only cycling and residential shops on both sides, residential buildings on both sides with some mixed use zoning, it would be a quiet street. You would also be able to have a lot of shops near your place, and it would be walkable and fairly enjoyable, very quiet. So I really wonder how much of that uh, desire for having a quiet space makes for this anti-commercial activity, anti-hawker sentiment in this. And obviously, also the other problem with our cities is that we completely have not reserved spaces or like
Hmm.
created spaces for commercial activity or hawking.
So
Which,
just to respond to the first point of yours, where I mean, the noise part of it is just one sensory aspect, right? So one thing that I noticed when I spoke to people, and they use this term quite a lot, that street side commerce is an eyesore. Uh,
hmm,
it shouldn't exist on our streets. So I mean, uh, everybody else, I think, lower and middle income group residents, they were very vocal for street side commerce because they're actually availing that service. You're getting fresh vegetables at proportionally lower prices when you're buying it off of the street. And of course, with today's sustainability and zero waste movement, there is negligible packaging in that setup as well.
yeah.
So we see the West actually moving towards buy vegetables by weight instead of in a bag. I saw a video or a post the other day where it showed a picture of Thailand with a sabzi wala not unlike this one, and someone was commenting, some person from North America was commenting, why can't our markets be like this? So we're headed full circle and back
Yeah.
uh, with the
Horseshoe
sustainability.
theory.
Yeah.
I mean, we see the shift towards the farmers market concept as well. So I think
Absolutely, yeah. And so I feel like our residents should also recognize that this is not without its virtues. And your market yard or a dedicated space for vending, uh, that is definitely a doable solution. But I feel like if the local citizen body is entirely opposed to it, it's never going to happen. I
Yeah.
mean, in a space as crunched as Cuff Parade, again, I use this just as an example, but uh, there they would much rather use that space for a garden than for a farmer's market or an open air vending space, uh, because they're only going to use that maybe once a week, a few times a week. And from the citizens that I spoke to, they didn't see any real utility towards it. They didn't think so. Even Are Sarita, which is the kiosk that sells milk, bread, and other light refreshments, they're not purchasing anything from it. I didn't see a single local resident. They walked past it. I didn't see a single local resident avail their services. So
So
usually,
I assume it will be most of the slum pockets around Cup Parade, Padho Park, and all the places where
yes,
a lot of
yes,
the
but
footfall comes
also
from.
the people who visit in, right? So
the
people
floating
like,
population.
yeah, the floating population, because the World Trade Center was there. So that's there. So they have a lot of people working the 9 to 5 there. So they'll come in their lunch breaks. So this was also quoted by one of the local residents that. So I'm not sure how if even in the city, but the World Trade Center pasta is very famous.
Okay.
It's a guy in a kiosk literally selling your street side white, red, pink pasta,
Mhm.
and featured heavily in street food circles, but not a local resident like going for it. Seen widely as a dirty establishment, an eyesore, disrupts the calm, all of that. So hindrance rather than help, even though that is the livelihood for some person, and I feel like sustenance for someone who needs cheap food. So
Yeah.
I think in the interest of equity, we need to actually bring that lens in, right? Who are the streets for? Are they only for the residents? Are they also for the visitors, floating population, workers? Like that is one lens that was very heavily imprinted in my mind when I heard this conversation. That okay, whom should we listen to? Like I think we'll touch upon that a little later as well. But yeah.
It really sort of shows the um, how it shifts responsibility from the authorities that the local residents see it as an eyesore. But
Hmm.
because it's not planned or designed, the streets are not designed in a way it is perceived that way. But in other case, if it were designed that way, it probably wouldn't have been perceived that way. So it's a very nice analogy that you made, because I'm sure that that is something that we observe, but to put it into words that way, it like made it really clear.
No, and
This also kind of reminds me of the way we think of spaces in the city in terms of not just public spaces, but even private spaces. Where, because every time I visit one of these commercial clusters, for example, in the Andheri East MIDC Road spaces, or Vikhroli, or Powai, or BKC to some extent, yeah, you'll see that there is a bunch of these commercial blue collar workers with their what is that thing called, a lanyard and all,
hmm,
hanging outside, and you can clearly see they make a lot of money. It's not like they don't make a lot of money, but all of these people are pushed outside of their office building because
right.
probably the canteen doesn't have as good of food, or maybe not as much variety as you would find on the footpath right outside their office.
Yeah.
In any other place you would see this uh, market ka failure and would say ki, okay, my commercial complex should have a whole hawker plaza inside it which can serve all of these people, integrated properly, make sure that the food just being cooked is properly done, maintained, and is safe to eat, so that the hygiene is taken care of. But for our, like, this is where the wealthy residents thing that you mentioned, they don't want to see any something which would be considered an eyesore within their complex. So all of this becomes spillover and it just spills outside without us having any kind of control over how the hygiene is. Like Singapore does it. You would have a bunch of people working in Singapore not complain about the hawker markets over there because it's done well. Over here, it's just an eyesore. It doesn't look good. The food is not great for your health. There's hundreds of other reasons they would give for not having something similar.
No, I think one part of it is that, I mean, Singapore is a great example. I was also just, when Aishwarya was also mentioning it, that was the first thing that came to my mind, that Singapore's hawker centers. But I think, to my mind at least, the reason seems like we want these to exist, but we don't want to admit that they should exist. I think it's a sort of internal tussle where, हाँ मतलब pasta खाना है, but I don't want to see the pasta place. And like make it happen, sanitized and clean and all of that, but I don't want to be involved in the process and don't do it near my house. That's the thought process that I think we're all coming in. And I don't just mean the affluent residents, but also I think some of us, to subconscious extents, all of us do this where this would be nice if it exists, just like don't make me think about it or don't make me worry about it. Like the whole hawker center example as well, right? It's great if it exists, but kaun karega? Who's going to actually bell the cat, right? That's the same apathy that we see from our bureaucracy and our political representatives as well. Yeah, we want this, but yeah, not my problem to fix it when it actually is. But yeah.
The same thing with hawkers as well, like not just food vendors, but other hawkers as well. Because immediate solution to hawkers existing on our streets is you will build a 25-story tower and put all of the hawkers.
Yeah.
That's not how it works here. Who's going to climb up anything above 3 stories? I would say 3B is a
3 is a
very high bar.
1 or 2 max.
1 or 2. उसके ऊपर this doesn't make sense.
The essence of like hawking activities, like the ad grade or like the same.
Yeah.
So
It's a flow through. Like you have 100 people walking a street, 20 of them might look at the food or fruits or vegetables around it and just buy something.
I feel like
It's
one example that's really floating around in this whole concentrated hawking discussion is the Sarojini Nagar market in Delhi. A lot of people have cited that as an example that deserves to be emulated. Of course, not greatly regulated and not the best example when it comes to street side cleanliness, but a great example when it comes to concentrating and that flow through that Aishwarya mentioned, where you have, I don't know, 500 hawkers of the same type in the same area. Someone who goes into Sarojini Nagar, even without thinking of buying anything, is going to come up with like 3 pairs of clothes. And really well done because it benefits both the hawkers as well as the customer, right? Because there's a lot to be desired when it comes to segregating, cleaning it up and all that, but that can be fixed. You make it exist first, you can make it good later.
Yeah. It's very important. I mean, I remember again after Cup Parade, we had talked about with my another friend of mine. I talked about Malabar Hill and the local residents' jitteriness about having footpaths. We are not even talking about having hawkers. This was about having footpaths. A lot of Malabar Hill does not have footpaths, and we are not even talking about the hilly parts of Malabar Hill. Some of them towards Nitansi Road and all. So I remember this conversation where this architect friend of ours was trying to say कि हम दोनों side में will provide good footpaths, will provide a bus station and all, bus terminal for all the buses which are coming from Mumbai Central. And this was kind of depressing to me because a lot of these people are like, why do we need footpaths at all? Who is walking these footpaths? And then the friend of mine was also drawing contrast. I see his house help every day getting out to buy groceries for him, who's walking on the edge of the road. And it is so invisible to a lot of wealthy people to that people walk in the city. This conversation probably would be happening while there is somebody walking right in front of them.
Yeah.
It's as bad as that.
And I feel like this we see this happening in real time in Cuff Parade. So the first photograph again here from Cuff Parade, it's so well done to walk on because it connects residential areas to parks. The same thing, if you just look at Cuff Parade as a concept and Kolaba next to it, there are no proper like walking spaces between them because Kolaba is a commercial space. They're not walking between them. It goes to show, right? It's like muscles that you exercise, those are the ones that you see. Same thing like this. The ones that people use are the ones that are developed. So this one is developed because people want to walk to their gardens. People want to walk to their sea-facing parks and enjoy the sunset. But no one wants to walk to Kulaba because they'll just have someone drive them over or they'll cab or Uber over. It's very evident if you look at the streetscape and that whole point about you not stepping out to purchase groceries or to do your mundane everyday sort of tasks, very visible in the streetscape. And that came up in conversations also. Ki, haan, matlab, there is a bus stop here, but why do we need to have the bus stop? It narrows down the footpath. None of us use the bus stop anyway. For them, they need a bus stop that can be built somewhere else. But we don't want it in front of our house. That was almost verbatim what I heard. That, oh, this bus stop in front of so-and-so area, we've been asking the cooperator to take it off, but they've not been cooperating. What sort of an argument is that? That is calling it a
Some of these statements are very jarring to listen to.
Intensely jarring to listen to.
And almost unbelievable at times that this is something that they're actually like fighting for, or like asking of.
It feels like a skit. Like it feels like those parodies that you see that of like people who are just so detached from reality that okay. And hearing that in real life, I was just very shaken that how can you be so like how can you have blinkers on?
I really wonder if there is a overlap in the population in this population that we are seeing, because I mean I come across these reels on Instagram where the kids are being sent to extremely elite schools and they're trying to get these kids to see the city and understand the problems of the city, where they will take the kids to ride in a truck, like a truck driver, long haul freight truck. They'll take these kids into a makeshift, like a, it's not a real rickshaw. They won't take the kids on the street home and then get the kids to drive the rickshaw. I think I shared this one to Aishwarya. But I mean, I don't know if these parents are the same parents who are sending their kids to these schools to be able to, so that they are not, when they get out of their 10th standard, go out into the real world, real Mumbai, not having a culture shock. Oh God, people are living like this. But I really wonder. I mean, when I talk about the overlap, I really think of the climate lens, especially because I'm reading Happy Cities right now.
Oh, lovely
which
book.
is an amazing book. And in that, a lot of times climate comes up, but as a secondary aspect. A lot of cities have improved their urbanism, their walkability, not to improve climate, but climate has been a byproduct of it.
Yeah.
And I really wonder, a lot of these well-educated people who are earning a lot, who are reading a lot, I'm pretty sure also believe in climate change, also uh, want to improve our standing in terms of climate change, and also arrest some of our development, which is going very in the opposite direction, especially in the transportation sector, because we're talking about walkability. And some of these choices that they are making, where they don't want to have mixed use, where they don't want to have walkable uh, things in a walkable radius of their housing, obviously and clearly go in the very opposite direction. So I really wonder how much of a dissonance there is in that.
I do want to point out one thing that when I spoke to the cooperator and some of the residents, they said that they're actually, and taking Cuff Parade as the example, they said that they're actually, because it's surrounded by the sea on three sides, they want to actually make it sea level rise proof. So that's one of the lenses that they're taking when they're designing and developing their streetscape, it seems. So their focus is being diverted towards seawalls and preventing. They've just and like it's gone
I
towards
mean,
that.
Colaba is still going to flood. So how are you going to get to Nariman Point? I assume you work in Nariman Point.
I mean, they're banking on the fact that they'll build a flyover or a road which is proposed
Yeah,
from
I forgot about that.
That's the answer to everything, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually looking at one of the plans from around 1948 or so, where the original Nariman Point reclamation was proposed. And right now it's a bit janky, right? I have a map on hand here. So, like right now, this is a bit janky because this part feels like it's incomplete. But apparently, this was all proposed to be reclaimed together. And
You can still see that Seawall is built
yeah, this one
to
there's
complete it.
very faint here, but you can see it.
Back Bay Reclamation Scheme.
Yeah, the Back Bay Reclamation Scheme. But I mean, for whatever reason, that didn't happen. And I did see articles like when I saw that, I was quite fascinated, and I went and looked at it, just Googled it, and saw that I think the present government is planning on doing that because
It's been floated multiple times, but I don't know how the sea view if something like that goes.
the only people losing the sea view are the folks who live here and here, because this central part here, which will be affected the most by it, is Lowell residence. It's in Badwar Park. It's a fishing colony. I don't think their opinions are really being factored in by the establishments, because they did that at Worli, they did that at Kolivada when they were building the sea link. So I think the only influential voices will be the ones over here, because this again,
No,
this
but I think still the Kapparate residents would stand to lose some
most definitely.
sea view, because if you have something reclaimed land over there, I'm pretty sure they will try to get in some commercial development over there, since it is right beside Nariman Point.
They will probably. I think it was when it was proposed also. This whole thing, because you see this here apparently is Nariman Point Block 3. So Block 4, 5, 6, and 7 was supposed to come up here. I mean, I have mixed thoughts about this, but I'm not really a stakeholder in this conversation at all. But yeah,
My main concern would be that it is this CBD would again be way to the corner of the city. Reaching there is a huge problem.
I mean, I feel like one of the solutions that will be fronted as support for this is that, oh, we've built a new metro line, use that. Which, by the way, also was one of those not in my backyard type of things by the residents. Oh, we don't need the metro line. It's going to add congestion outside the President, which is the 5-star hotel over there. And we don't really want that sort of congestion there, because already there's a lot of traffic. Adding a metro station there is going to increase that traffic. But yeah, I mean,
I would leave my car. It's amazing. It's still fascinating because this entire Colaba Cuff Parade area, I have never visited Cuff Parade, and if I show you my Google Photos ka heat map of where I click pictures, it is I have traveled the entirety of Mumbai, and I'm yet to travel to Cuff Parade because it is so far from any like you can take buses over there, buses to there. But
I
it
would
is still
recommend that you take the 138 though. It's a very beautiful bus route, double decker. Do take the 138. Just go one of those times. go and come back, like get down at President and walk to Woodhouse Road, which is just like a minute's walk. Go
The
there.
furthest I think I've been to is is it the, I think it's the Colaba depot. I've
Yeah,
not been
this is
further.
farther ahead. Yeah, this is farther ahead. So I've not been to Afghan Church, but I've heard it's really been beautifully restored now. And that's further ahead. So that's almost in Navy Nagar now.
Yeah, I think so.
The distances from Nivinagar to CST are like 5-6 kilometers.
Baffling. You can't tell that it's that far, no?
Yeah, it's very weird when you look it up on the map.
One more point that I wanted to bring up. It's maybe not completely related to the mixed-use developments on the street, but from what Vedant quoted about the residents in Malabar Hill or Cuff Parade not wanting footpaths. So I think it touches upon the squatters topic. So, or like also the like non-availability of affordable housing. So did you come across something like that when you were conducting like your surveys or when you were talking to the local residents?
So squatters, I feel like in Cuff Parade especially, in the actual area where like affluent residents were living, squatters were non-existent. Forget squatters. I was looked at with suspicion because I was clearly an outsider because I had a backpack. I was taking photographs of the street.
Yeah.
I felt palpable hostility when I was walking down the streets, and it was not something that I'd ever experienced before because like a guard is looking at you and there's no space to wait, sit, pause. So the guard is just looking at you, ki, why are you here? So if
Me when I go to Geo World Mall.
but that sort of a thing, I feel like in that context, squatters are non-existent, and the people's opinions on squatters. So Badwa Park, which is right next to it, Badwa Park itself is a railway colony, but it also has a fishing village next to it. So it all comes under the same Prabhag or ward, same corporator, same MLA, everything. But the residents of Cuff Parade saw their neighbors essentially with in an extremely sort of poor light, where they were like, it was a very us and them scenario, and they were very cognizant of the fact that so the parks in the area, like most parks in the city, are developed privately, they're built privately, and then they're transferred to the municipal corporation, so they become public parks. So the residents association here actually fought to keep them private, to control access, and then I think the squatters and the general public won a case in the High Court, and it was made into a public park. But even now, I was told this when I went to speak to the people, because I spoke to a lot of people in the parks. They told me that, we don't go to that part of the park because it's been taken over by them. So it's that attitude towards squatters, and they weren't even squatters, they were visitors in the park. There were boys playing cricket.
Yeah.
And there are children playing in sort of this part of the park also. And they're like, oh, you didn't go on that side, right? Like, we advise people not to walk on that side, which is so strange and extremely alienating to me also. Because, and this is just a personal anecdote, when I told them that, okay, I'm from Thane, the expression changed.
Oh, wow.
Might as well be from Mars.
Yeah. Someone told me once, like one of the older women told me, oh, I've heard there are tall buildings there now.
Wow.
I mean, you you hear of these things and memes and reels so far, but it's like catching a Pokemon in the wild
Oh,
when
yeah.
you actually come across.
And what
I wonder if when I mention that I'm from Dombivli, they might think I'm from Nasik or something.
Yeah. It's like, where is Dombivli? Is it near Pune? That would be the question.
Yeah.
It actually had made me think whether this was really the reason, one of the reasons that they completely wanted a street devoid of footpaths, which was, I mean, I just I still can't
Yeah.
get to that statement.
Yeah, I think that is one of the reasons, because I vividly remember some of the when the coastal road got built in the northern part of Malabar Hill, which is a breach candy and all. A lot of those residents didn't want buses to come in at Mahalakshmi Temple. They didn't want a lot more people to uh, pour into their neighborhood, so they were trying to get some design interventions done so that it would be difficult for buses to park over there and keep them out. So the I don't understand, how are you so unempathetic? And
Just a very hostile approach.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's hostile also would be a very mild word. To me, I don't know. It's very antisocial approach in certain ways.
And
Okay,
Yeah.
you have,
point was that, I mean, we're focusing on the residents right now, but it also highlights the authorities that are like really failing to address all of this. And I'm not sure whether they are really held responsible enough as much as the citizens are like sort of, uh, yeah.
yeah, it's also very evident with the way we build our gated communities and all.
Yeah.
Where mixed use is mixed use usually होता भी नहीं है, और होता है तो it is at a very corner of the
Also,
commercial
I think
establishment.
it's tokenistic mixed use, right? There'll be one kirana shop.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
A lot of times it's not even a kirana shop. They will pay huge bucks to get a anchor commercial establishment.
Yeah.
And it cannot sustain itself with the given footfall, because it is so low density and there's not enough footfall to sustain it. I've seen this very vividly. When you go to a shop in, say, Dombivli or Thane station area, just because the sheer amount of footfall that locality has, the shop has enough money to have a very bright bulb. The shop has enough money to renovate the. Let's think of it. Let's think of a pharmacy. Pharmacy, maybe they will have the proper green laminate which looks nice. They'll have proper glass cabinets and all. But you look at a same shop in a very high, very affluent, wealthy gated community, they won't have enough sale to be able to afford all of this. So a lot of these spaces, even in a place which I like, for example, Hiranandani, both in Powai and Thane, I have seen they are slightly more dilapidated as something which a lot of a lot of station area places which affluent people won't want to visit. So I really see these externalities of wanting to live in a very isolated, gated community, not having such spaces.
Yeah.
About planning policies and plans, which you have a very nice section about that, and a lot of aspects. So you clearly say that the existing policies and plans focus almost entirely on greenfield development of cities while neglecting the state of existing and established cities. This is evidenced through the emphasis on planning and zoning regulations that policies like the NUTP 2014 and schemes like Amrut place. So I want to ask you to elaborate a bit more on this and try to explain what these policies and what are the certain aspects that you kind of see exemplifying this approach.
Sure thing. So, I mean, just touching upon the NUTP as an example, and just like
Which
to
is
say
the National Urban Transport Policy.
the National Urban Transport Policy 2014. And I'd also like to say that the Amrut, which is the Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation, the Amrut sort of acts as an add-on to the NUTP. It echoes the sort of the same things that the NUTP is saying, just maybe a little louder. That's the read that I got on Amrut. But NUTP as such, I think one thing that it talks about, its ethos is in like minimizing the amount of cars on the street. Its heart is in a good place, but it goes through a 3-point principle, which is avoid, shift, and improve regarding journeys. So it wants people to avoid journeys first and foremost. That's where the greenfield aspect comes in, and shift and improve if you can't avoid. So shift as in you shift from motorized transport, be it cars or even buses and public transport, and improve whatever you're walking on ground, improve that. That becomes a third criteria. So these are in order of priority for the policy. So first and foremost, it wants to avoid as many as possible. So the wording of the policy itself is in a way that you try and zone in such a way that the journeys become shorter. That
15-minute city concept.
15-minute city concept. So you try and have that. So that is the ethos of avoid under the NUTP. And then it says that, okay, if you can't avoid, then shift and improve. And then shift and improve proportionally is not given as much weightage in there. And so the other plans and policies. So if you look at Mumbai's development plans also, a lot of the development plans don't, first of all, don't explicitly call out walking and walkability. Some of them do, like the climate action plan does, but
Yeah.
the,
DP doesn't.
the development plan absolutely doesn't. And
It's just 30-meter wide road, 90 feet wide road, 100-meter wide roads.
that is also, I feel like that comes in because that is inextricably linked to FSI. And that's the focus of those plans. So FSI of law space index is just how tall you can build, right? So that again becomes a zoning regulation. So that's why I feel like all of these plans and policies look very heavily at zoning regulations because that is how you can regulate greenfield cities. So when NENA is going to be built, which is the Navi Mumbai yeah, the terrible abbreviation, but I mean, NENA for short is doable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when that will be built, I guess, sure, you can implement that. But that also is not going to be super conducive to skyscrapers because it's literally next to an airport. So you
Yes.
can't have really dense zoning there as well. So I don't see how you're
Same
going
with
to.
the third Mumbai. I think
Yeah,
that
third
might
Mumbai.
still be better because it's behind a hill, so at least they can be as tall as they.
Okay, so it'll be outside that funnel of the
Yeah.
runway, right? Okay. Yeah, that's nice. So I feel like for these policies, what they're advocating is a sort of start from scratch approach. Ki, theek hai, our cities are doomed now.
Yeah.
If you want to fix them here, take these like 5-7 measures, these standards, and try and implement them as much as you can. Nahi hua to theek hai, chodo. That's the approach that they're sort of, though that's the wording, that's what the wording is betraying. Because like some of these, and why I'm stressing so much on the wording is because that's how the bureaucrats think. The wording is a reflection of how the bureaucrat thinks. And the bureaucrat is again an extension of the government. So if the bureaucrats largely think, if the bureaucracy thinks that way, then that's what the ethos of the government in the next whatever years is going to be like. So
Yeah.
when this was published in 2014, I don't think much has changed in the 10 plus years since that has been published. Because right now, if they've literally said that, okay, if you want to, you have to modify zoning regulations to avoid trips, unnecessary trips, as they call them. The only solution for that is like a Haussmann style 1835 Paris. You you demolish the entire city and you start over again, which is obviously not a realistic solution. I think in the Dharavi redevelopment plan, sure, if that comes up, I have not seen any technical drawings. None of that has been. I don't think that's been made public.
There were certain leaks in the past, I think 2 or 3 weeks. So I had gotten a view of the road layout inside that, and we also have certain connections with some very higher ups in who are heading the Dharavi project. So something very interesting about that is that we really like is previously the density of intersections was something very similar to BKC, which I do not like at all because it is very far. The blocks are very huge and it's difficult to get from place to place. So it has now, I think, tripled. And I'd seen the layout that they are planning for it. It is quite organic in the way it looks. It just seems like an extension of the other. And I'm really liking the way it is being laid up. And there is a nice central walkable park spine kind of a thing which goes across the entire region. And now they are also coming up with some multimodal transit. I don't know how it is going to be or what exactly it is, but hoping that it is good overall. We'll see as time goes and we get more entrants and all.
The multimodal hub, though, I remember looking at an article maybe a couple of days ago. Every single thing they want to integrate in that, the feasibility of it leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, I wonder how though. Like, how would a Western and Central Railway have a central?
They want to integrate Mahim, Sion, and Chunabatti in it. How?
But how? These places are 3 or 4 kilometers apart. I have always wanted that we have like a nice shuttle service under which connects the Metro Line 3 ka Dadar Metro Station, the Dadar Railway Station, and Vadala Railway Station. And in the future, probably the Line 11, which is the
which is the green line, yeah.
Which would be, I don't know how they would do it because the Dadar Metro Station and the railway station are far, but not that far. So your train would be as long as probably.
The Dadar Metro Station is near Sena Bhavan, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not too far. But
it's, I think 600 or 800 meters.
Inconvenient to walk because Dadar station itself.
As an interchange, it is far, I feel.
Yeah, it's quite far as an interchange. And as an interchange, you also don't, you have to walk on the street to change, right? You don't have a dedicated interchange.
Yeah. Maybe a underground walkway or something would be, I don't know. Pedestrian streets is what we have been suggesting for that entire Ranade Road.
Oh, Ranade Road would be lovely as it's as
a region. I had written an article in Question of Cities where I had envisaged how it could be, but obviously it is going to be very difficult with the 1% of the people who are taking their vehicle to the railway station. But yeah, that is it's going to be fascinating. That regarding this NUTP and Amrut discussion, this is also something we have seen. The thing that you are mentioning, the text reflects the bureaucracy. We have seen this happen in person when we are talking to some of the people at MMRDA or a BMC. I had brought specifically up the Kalyan Ring Road. So if anyone knows what the Kalyan Ring Road is, basically it connects Itwala, Kalyan, West, and Dombivli.
Okay.
It is a lot of these spaces in the between these neighborhoods are not developed as of now.
They're largely rural, no?
They're largely rural, and this ring road actually runs at the periphery of all of these neighborhoods. But it is close enough to these neighborhoods that once this road comes up, immediately a lot of builders will come up and a lot of buildings will start taking place. So if you visit the ring road right now, the footpaths are 2.5 meters or thereabouts. But the right-of-way available is, I think, above 40 meters, probably 30 or 40 meters. So this is a massive road.
Yeah.
And still the footpaths provided are very tiny. So I was discussing with one of the officials, from your policy perspective, wouldn't you want this, because you have a nice right-of-way, let's make it a multimodal thing. Let's have a nice 4-meter wide footpath minimum, which IRC says 4 meter hona chahiye. This is a greenfield development. It's not even a brownfield कि तुम लोग retrofit कर रहे हो. You have the land available. You have the right of way. You have massive right of way. You can afford to have a 4-meter, 5-meter footpath. But he's like, but no, 3 meter is also a wide footpath if there is no encroachment. I'm like, but it is not encroachment if you provide space for it. Have a nice 5-meter wide footpath, which is not unseen in Mumbai. You have it, walk on Lamington Road, it's a 7-meter wide footpath. On the left hand side, you have all of these nice computer stores which sell you GTX 5090 and all. And uske opposite mein you have a lemonade stall, you have a dabeli ka stall. People buy stuff there, have food, again do their shopping. And a lot of it is a wholesale market, right? So a lot of these salesmen go to that place orders, spend the entire day doing their orders, booking their orders, having food in that same place. and then going home. So it's a nice mixed use, self-sustained, self-contained neighborhood. Why would you not want something similar?
I mean, I
It's
feel
not,
like it's this whole thing about the authorities just looking at pedestrians as a waste of space, so to speak. Because I saw this. So I live on Gotbanda Road in Thane, uh, national highway, part of the Golden Quadrilateral. I get it. Okay, I understand that it's a vehicular artery. I understand, but a few weeks, months ago, through the gossip grapevine, you hear that, it like my parents were telling me that it was in the building WhatsApp group that the footpath that divides the service road and the highway or the main road, that's going to be done away with in favor of one more lane. No, one more lane.
oh wow.
So flyover, so already there is a flyover there. It's there every few meters, but
नहीं, I think there was also Anand Nagar too. I don't know if Gotbanda Road पे आता है क्या वो?
no, that'll go into the city. That
Okay,
joins somewhere near Kalwa.
okay.
So Kalwa on that side and towards Mulund on the other. So that goes to the city. So Gotbanda Road is one side ahead, right? So there is the metro that's happening here. Blessing for us when it opens, if it
Yeah.
uh, but I was so shocked. I was in half a mind to like to get one of those like mount boards with like and start doing a protest, but I knew that I'll just be like put in a truck and taken somewhere away.
Yeah.
So, but fortunately, it hasn't happened. I think that the plan's been shelved because I think the MLA changed, right? So that plan's been shelved, but had it happened, because there is no footpath on the service road either. On the other
Yeah,
side,
yeah, yeah.
footpath.
This is, I remember this specifically because I specifically in Thane at that time, I came to Hiranandani to record the footage. So for the walk video that I was taking.
Mhm.
And I was with my dad. My dad was riding the bike. I was holding my camera above his helmet.
Mm.
And because the service road has no footpaths, people are obviously walking in the middle
Mm.
of that thing. And I remember this. Uh, so this guy who was trying to cross the footpath, he was. We couldn't see him because he was in front of a car. We were going car ke baaju se, and we almost hit him. And the entire service road, like if you think from a driver's perspective, Ghodbanda Road is relatively a dream because you have dono side mein service road hai, so there's no beach. It's fairly access controlled in that sense.
Yeah.
You would think everything is fine, but the moment you go on the service road, you see ki there's no footpath, there's no space. Vehicles are parked on the footpath. There's no shoulder portion on the footpath. So half the lane is gone for parking and all. So we have gone as far as building a service road for this road, but not thought about the footpath. We need to have that.
And I feel like one thing that where I think the municipal corporation has failed is because they've built gated communities right onto the street without actually asking them to, there's a set off, right? That you set them back a little bit.
Yeah.
And then there is no setback. There is a setback, and then there's a gate, and then there's a setback, and then there's a wall. Like, there is no continuity of the footpath, and it's baffling to me how, and that really ties into just how your walking experience changes as you walk through the city, right? It's not the same everywhere else.
Even in Kolshet and all, I have seen this Hiranandani ke road layout ke upar. I mean, the TMC tried to take some cues and build avenues to attract development and all. But I've seen ki even that they have done in a very car-centric manner. The median has all of these planters and all. So you can't really see if a pedestrian is coming from a crossing, and footpaths are not continuous. It is a very Americanized footpath. I feel you have this small 1 or 2 feet wide walkway, and baju mein you have a lot of shrubbery. Dusre side maybe you have a lot of plantation. So nobody really wants to walk on that space.
And I mean, like it makes me wonder, like on what basis do they even decide we're going to demolish this footpath to add another lane? I remember Vedant had once asked a I think he was an MLA or someone from the PMC or someone that regarding a footpath on the bridge when they were reducing the width. What is your basis? So he had given a very generic answer that maybe we think the footfall is not enough there, so we can do away with it.
So he had specifically said that we do. The consultant probably showed in his research that either the footfall has reduced or the footfall has shifted to some nearby bridge, which is not absolutely not something that I believe it. कि 1920s में मुंबई में कम लोग ज़्यादा लोग चल रहे थे as compared to today is one thing. And second thing, even if there is a footover bridge built, that footover bridge is railway car. So you need a ticket to cross it.
Oh, okay.
And also it doesn't make sense. I see a flyover, I want to cross it. I know where the flyover goes.
Is this the Dalal Road one?
Yeah, it is the Dalal Road. Dalal Road as well as most of the
railroad one is also like that, right?
Yeah. So they're doing away with footpaths on flyovers. So you have to now go niche se kidhar se bhi dhund ke rasta.
And that's so counterintuitive, right? Like cars are not going to go into the railway station. People are.
Yeah.
So why would you
do this for the pedestrians?
Yeah, you do this for the pedestrians. And I quite like the older British era design of the bridges, like Tilak Bridge. In Dadar, open straight into Dadar station. You can walk in the station. The station
same at Mahalakshmi.
Same in Mahalakshmi. Curry Road used to be like that. So I'm assuming Curry Road is not like that anymore with the new Dalal Bridge?
No. None of the new bridges, even the Rea Road Bridge, it's 7 or 8 feet higher than the ticket house now. So it doesn't connect.
And how do they expect people to get in?
They are saying they're gonna lift up the heritage structure somehow. I think conservationists they're trying to do something.
No, but I just feel like this is so counterintuitive to how they should have done it.
And I don't know why we would build bridges higher than they need to be. Because one reason for building higher bridges was the clearance for the trains. Because when the AC trains came in, they could not run them because Sayanka Bridge was very short. I understand that, but then it makes sense. ठीक है, 1 meter तुम ऊपर ले लो. That is enough future proofing for whatever climate change disaster that you're expecting the city to be in. But they are building it like 10-15 feet higher than what the existing bridges are. So Dalal Bridge pe what has happened is कि पहले they didn't provide footpaths. There was a 4-lane bridge became a 6-lane bridge, 3+3. But there were no vehicles to actually use those 6 lanes because the roads which are feeding to this Dalal Bridge are not wide enough.
They're 1 or 2 lane roads.
They're 1 or 2 lane roads. So anyway, that 3rd lane which was used by people was not being used by vehicles. And people, because it is intuitive to cross it, people are walking on that bridge. And at the very start, there was nothing, no infrastructure. People are just walking along. Uske baad, they provided these plastic barricades to create some segregated environment. And then later on, they just added some guardrails, which are like 1.5 meters wide. So, pehle jo 3 meter wide footpath that has come down to 1.5 meter wide guardrail enclosed claustrophobic space which you walk on.
That is incredibly dangerous also because for my knowledge these bridges get really dark at night and I wouldn't want to walk on something like that at night.
Definitely not. You should see the Gokhale Bridge. That is a nightmare.
Does that have a footpath?
It has a 90 centimeter footpath.
I was wondering whether it is under 1 meter or just.
It is literally it is not even that one person can walk and the other person has to tilt. It is both persons have to tilt while crossing that. It is that narrow.
It's Shagun ka footpath. It's literally a token.
Yeah. Don't provide it. Yeah. This is like false sense of security.
Yeah, you're actually deceiving people into thinking that they're safe when they're actually not.
Yeah.
You move your hands to the side, you're hit by a car.
No. Even that is not possible with the Gokhale Bridge because the walls are higher than your head.
Oh, it has a
So
wall on the side.
yeah, both sides there are these plastic, not plastic, steel walls. So I think up to your eye level you can see cars if you are on your tippy toes, but it is enclosed in these walls.
I remember seeing something like this maybe on the Brooklyn Bridge, which has like high barricades. I get that, okay, you want to keep people safe. Your intent is noble, but the way you're doing it by
Yeah,
boxing people in is absolutely ridiculous.
yeah. Women's safety के हिसाब से तो that is like no, impossible. I'm not having anybody walk on that bridge.
But how would the workaround for that is A, you don't use the bridge or you walk on the carriageway, right?
Is also an option in case of a bridge, or I mean, it has to be a very long detour or just not walking at all.
Yeah, not walking at all is definitely like, it might not be all of the people not walking, but it probably shaves off some 10-15% of the people from walking.
Possibly more, because that's
Yeah.
actually the direction that they want to push people in. That, okay, you don't walk at all, which is so counterintuitive to me. And it feels like one of those moments where it's so obvious that how can you not see that it's so obvious? Like,
Yeah.
I think I know that this is just like at the time of recording, 2 days ago, Zoran Mamdani won in the primaries in New York,
Yeah.
and he's been making press for a lot of reasons. But one thing that I did like about his campaign was he was on the streets walking a lot.
Exactly.
Which was also one of the USPs that he said, that I'm a politician who's
One of you.
actually walking the streets and I know what's happening, as compared to his opponents where they were not walking the streets at all. Like, his main opponent that he wanted to defeat was Andrew Cuomo,
Not lived in New York.
who's not lived in New York at all. So I feel like it's time we get people who are actually in touch with the city, right?
Yeah, that is the biggest thing that I've noticed. Like Zoran, one day prior to the election, walked the entire length of Manhattan, which would be the same length as South Mumbai. So from like Dadar
No,
to
possibly more. Possibly more.
possibly more. Mahim to Kolaba, which is, I don't know what politics Rahul Gandhi has walked the country, but on a city level, I don't know who has really got into the nitty-gritty. They're walking on the street, interacting with people. And that is this lack of interaction, I feel, is a lot of what causes the problems in our city. Because I have seen this thing about Indian bureaucracy. If they have one target to achieve, they achieve it. Like they will make the ground in whatever the phrase is. I don't know. Zameen asmaan ek kar denge.
Right.
They'll do it. They'll try to do it. Like Coastal Road faced a lot of public opposition because a lot of reclamation was going to be happening, as well as they were concerned about their immediate sea-facing view. But still, it was done, and it was done well. Like whatever they wanted to do, they did.
Yeah.
They did it in a very proper manner. So it kind of makes me think if they wanted to make a city much more walkable, if they wanted to, say for example, just fix the walk from say Churchgate Station to Vidhan Bhavan, they would be much more aggressive about all of the small curbstones. Ki slope chahiye mujhe. I don't know. By from 3 weeks from now, I want this curb slope. Because they are not walking this, they are not experiencing this. I feel they're very out of touch in that sense.
This is a quote that I had heard when I was working with the government of Odisha. One of my colleagues said that to me, that and this is again a Hindi quote, is that सबको लगता है कि सरकार बहुत धीरे काम करती है, but अगर सरकार चाहे तो कुछ भी कर देगी, कैसे कितनी भी जल्दी कर देगी. Which is exactly what you said, right?
Yeah.
There is just a lack of will, and it's not even political will. Political will is a whole different ball game altogether because they're working with electorates. But bureaucratic will also exists. The bureaucrat wants to do what they want to do.
Every meeting we have with a government official, it feels like they start off thinking reasons why something that we propose cannot be done. हाँ we will try to do that and we will इसको इसके लिए क्या क्या कर सकते हैं. That is, it is there, but it is rare. I would really like to congratulate the ward officers at D ward because they were very proactive in that sense कि हाँ उसमें क्या क्या करना है आप बताओ. But usually when we go into the Worli hub or the BMC headquarters, it is a different thing. कि, we ask कि ये bridge पे ये footpath क्यों नहीं है, and then they will give कि maybe consultant का issue है, कि they have not suggested that, or maybe there's something else, maybe railway का bridge नहीं है. Then we talk about stamp concrete की stamp concrete wears off in a year or two. Why do you have this specifically? Then they will be like, but it is smoother. अच्छे से ये बनाते शेप बनाते हैं. Then guardrails के बारे में भी like we immediately say कि you don't really need as many guardrails as you're putting up across the city. If you're putting up 1 meter wide footpath पे guardrails, nobody's going to walk on that at all. जो भी चल रहा है वो भी नहीं चलेंगे. And their answers are also very funny at times. They are like, but these prevent hawkers from existing on the footpath. First of all, which is not the purpose of guardrails. No document in the government says that guardrails are for that purpose. Second thing, hawkers are not there on a footpath with guardrail because there are no people on the footpath with guardrail. It's so funny the way they try to give excuses for certain things. So it is a mindset change, I think.
That point is also like a car-centric approach that the hawkers don't spill over on the carriageway or the shoulder portion. So it's free for if a vehicle wants to stop there. It's not, coming on the shoulder portion. So then there is no waiting space for the vehicles. That is also another thing that we had like noticed. It's a very, pedestrians are beyond an afterthought, I guess.
Absolutely. And I feel like that's also that American mindset of, oh, no jaywalking, right? Which frankly, in India, it doesn't work. And also, why would, forget the why. The why is a question we'll never get an answer to. But that's something that we shouldn't change, ideally. Because you look at jaywalking, our speeds are not that much, especially in interior roads. The design speeds themselves are very low. So it's not going to be as bad also if for jaywalking. Like I've been reprimanded by a lot of people who've lived outside and they've said that, oh, but why are you walking? Why are you crossing from here? I was like, no, listen, the car's running at 10 kilometers per hour. Wait.
It is also very intuitive, to quickly cross over. It is not. This is the holy grail of the European cities. Lately, what they are trying to do is getting rid of the entire intersection from signals. They want the people to slow down. They want the vehicles to slow down, have that eye-to-eye interaction, see their facial behavior, and make or negotiate for that space. This is what they are trying to do. We already have it, and
we're trying to
get rid of it.
Yeah.
In that. After the G20 summit, there has been a lot of deterioration in that permeability of the street because BMC got the 1750 crore ka package for beautifying their streets. Now BMC doesn't have as many gardens to actually spend that money on. There are some, but nowhere close to something like a Delhi or a Bangalore. So where do you spend this money? So the places they found to spend this money is medians. So they replace the old flat medians which you could stand on. Some of these you can still see in Dadar or other areas in the city, but they replace those with the taller medians which have planters in it. So that permeability is gone at a lot of spaces across the city. Another place they found space to beautify is the traffic refuge islands. So they put up guardrails, they put up flower beds, they put up globe,
culture,
unity, yoga, whatever. all of those spaces are taken up by this blank check that is given to the BMC to spend it on. I would much rather spend it on a Carter Road or a man stand to improve it. Those spaces need a lot of improvement. It's okay right now, but it can be done much better.
I think a part of it is that they don't want to improve it because again it attracts antisocial elements is the narrative that's being peddled, right? Oh, it'll
I don't
attract
know if that's the thing with like Bandstand and Carter Road, because clearly it is built up by the residents' trust. They can be snobbish about it, but 90% of the people using it are not locals.
Hmm.
It's definitely frequented by a lot of college students and people living nearby. So I don't even think that is the reason with not improving it. They would very much want to have a nice aesthetic boardwalk along
Yeah.
that stand and all. About NUTP and Namrut, we veered off from that a lot, but it's been an enjoyable conversation so far. We see this key now in Mumbai. Mein you have wide footpaths, you have all of this urbanism. Where they have actual IRC grade footpath widths and all. The same they are doing with Naina and the third Mumbai. But you don't see this taking place in, say, a Badlapur.
Hmm.
Badlapur is also developed in the same time frame that Navi Mumbai is developed. But all of these plans are only implemented when they are done in a very SPA, special purpose authority is appointed to build a very new city, planned city and all. I find this especially funny because they quote Navi Mumbai being the largest planned city in the world. I've heard that being said a lot of times. Most of the cities across the world, like New York, is planned. You look at the grid layout; it was planned long time ago. They have never gone ahead and claimed it's a planned city. And I don't even believe in cities having to be planned to be nice and good. Like
Precisely.
JVPD is planned.
Hmm.
You see it on a map. It has rectilinear streets.
Hmm.
It has semicircle streets. You try to walk on one of those. 50% of the space is parking, no footpaths,
Yeah.
and it's not an enjoyable space to walk on. And Nala Sopara again, Badlapur, Nala Sopara, a lot of Kalyan ka Khadakpada road, Ghodbanda road.
Hmm.
How are we forgetting that? All of these places are built in the same span as Navi Mumbai. But the way I feel a lot of our policies are set up, it doesn't percolate through the way municipalities actually implement these policies. It can be implemented by a Sidco or it can be implemented by a Noida or a Gurgaon ka, I don't know what authority Gurgaon has.
I
Or
think
a
they
DD.
have a municipal corporation there.
Okay. Somehow the NCR region municipalities actually do take up the road layout and all fairly more proactively as compared to Mumbai. Now I don't like their zoning policies and all, but I would digress. But you don't see that in Mumbai. You see all of these DP roads being built, but footpath nahi hai usko. So, do you have something to add to that? Ki how what exactly within those policies is uh, causing that?
I think one thing about the policies is such, first of all, our policies are drafted in silos. Uh, they're drafted by bureaucrats sitting in air-conditioned cabins. That goes without saying. One quick fix here would be to have active citizen participation in policy drafting. We have citizen forums when we're floating larger infrastructure projects. Like we saw that video of the one about the mangroves in Versova that came out recently, where the bureaucrat was extremely condescending. It was not a good forum, but I feel like having a good forum where citizen voices or citizen group voices, okay, individual citizen voices are not as strong, but if citizen groups are adequately represented, forget citizen groups, even your local representatives, once we get them, even if they're represented, if even they're represented, it is going to be a lot more representative. The policy is going to be a lot more inclusive. Right
Yeah.
now, where the policy stands, they're doing a bare minimum. They're laying the floor, not the ceiling, of what needs to be done. So the expectation is that the municipal corporation builds on it, on the floor, and they actually raise the bar a little bit. So in that regard, I feel like the policy can be improved in that way by actually getting more people in the discussion room. Okay, too many cooks do spoil the broth, I agree. Don't get them to opine on every single thing. You will never pass a policy, but have at least one or two discussion stages
Yeah.
because active open citizen forums do a lot.
Keep it time oriented. You don't have to have it endless discussions on it, but
Precisely.
give a good 2 hour slot where people can
And
put forth their opinion.
I feel like even some amount of involvement from the citizens. ठीक है, right now where you have zero like rules coming in with citizen input, from that, even if like the bar is that low that if two modifications are also made, I'll be happy. That's how low the bar is. But I feel like that's one quick fix that can be done. And also, this is done for development plans. It's not like it's an alien concept for the government. Development plans often have a citizens like consultation stage, where the draft plan is floated back to citizen bodies and to industry bodies. So why not have that for policies as well? I think this was done for the new education policy that came out in 2020, where a draft was passed out. But most of the time, I don't recall if it was done for the NUTP. This was a while ago. But most policies just get published. A draft doesn't come out unless you're in the circles. If you're in
Yeah.
the circles, which most people are not, they're never going to know about it. Like my parents are not involved in the urbanism space at all, but most citizens have an opinion about this, and most citizens will be able to very quickly say that, "हाँ ये ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. Change
Yeah.
this." Given the
It has to be a proper systemic way for this, because one of the things that I had uh, suggested to Rishi in terms of how do you get Walking Project to make money so that we are able to sustain ourselves. So one of these ideas was that we create like a map-based dashboard and we enroll all of the organizations in the social sector working in Mumbai and get them to post whatever they are hosting on our platform. Basically, like Book My Show, but on a map-based system, where you just open up the map and check कि मेरे neighborhood में आज क्या हो रहा है, what thing is happening, and then we charge all of these organizations a nominal fee on for platforming them or whatever. So that was the idea, and I think something similar needs to happen in terms of like Maharashtra government. If there is a Maharashtra government ka dashboard, I could just go on it and check what consultation is happening in my locality on a given weekend. I go there, I check, I visit the hearing. I think right now there is a lot of the government and the bureaucracy doesn't want to have that many consultations because again this is that Indian ethos ki authority, we need an authoritarian to fix our problems, we need a strong man to fix our problems, and that quote about the emergency which constantly I hear from a lot of people where कि emergency लागू हुई तो trains time पे चलने लग गई, and we have this we want to have as little discussions and all possible to somehow just jam a infrastructure project through. But without consultation, there are these smaller things that are left behind, and a lot of stakeholders are completely बाजू में हो जाते हैं.
yeah.
And I think the belief in democracy, not just electorally, but also from an opinion perspective and from an ideas perspective. If you have a broad swath, a lot of the good ones will filter out and come into your policies at the end. Which I think we need that kind of a approach. A lot of the public hearings that I've been to, the quality of those are so bad because first of all, these MLAs host them like once every 4 or 5 years, and each meeting it's like a fish market basically, where the kind of tasks put forward to the MLA are really not deserving of the position. People are coming with things like garbage in front of my house is not cleared, or there's a puddle in front of me. So these are not MLA level issues. The MLA's job is to get the system properly in place, which can fix all of this. If that is not working, then it has to come to this level. But because it is hosted in the once every 4 or 5 months, all of the most loudest people are coming to the meeting, and then it becomes a issue where really nothing of substance is being discussed, or systemic things improvements are not discussed.
this was actually one of the policy suggestions that I'd given as a part of the dissertation, where I said that empower your local representatives, because that was one thing that came out very strongly in my research, was that people had a connect with their cooperator. I wouldn't say it happened everywhere and with everyone, but a lot of the people that I spoke to said that, we have a good relationship with them. They are approachable enough that we can go to their office and speak to them. So
You have a shakha at your location. You
you
know
have
where
a
the
shakha.
shakha.
Yeah, you know where the shakha is. You know where the shakha is. You know where the office is. You know where they sit. So
Yeah.
or you have them on call, you have them on WhatsApp. Like I remember, we've moved recently, but in our old neighborhood, I remember my parents had a relationship with a local cooperator, where, okay, sir, hey, nahi, this is not happening, this is not working out. You WhatsApp them and it gets fixed, or you
Yeah.
send them a photograph, it gets fixed. That MLA level forum that you were
Yeah.
talking about, right? Have more of those lower level forums, and then your higher level forums get freed for policy level discussions.
And now you have technology. It's not like you need to have a room to have these discussions. You can
And
have a well moderated online meeting.
one of the points that the authorities or the people from PMC, MMRD, or whatever, had mentioned that they did not want to be involved for a specific project or a topic for a longer time. So they can actually cut down time if they involve more citizens, and it's like finished off very quickly. It doesn't keep coming up the issues, or if it's built for them, because in the end they are the users, right? So it also like cuts down on the time in the involvement of the project.
This also kind of reminds me of the problem. I listened to this podcast, which is the Ezra Klein show, and in that, a lot of the problems that they are facing in the US in terms of building green infrastructure, green climate infrastructure, it could be power lines, it could be nuclear, it could be all of these things, and just infrastructure in general, like transportation infrastructure. The New York, it was the Seventh Avenue subway, I think, or Sixth Avenue. I don't know. It's one of the latest one. I think it's the Seventh Avenue. That is a 2 kilometer ka shuttle, which cost them $2.1 billion. It added one or two stations, and the problem that these guys are facing right now is ki a lot of these projects go into climate litigation, and a lot of this is taken up by NIMBYs, because of which what happens is if a project comes forward, it goes immediately into a environmental review. It takes 2000 or 4000 pages ka environmental review report which has to come out, and then there is no time bound mechanism for it. So if it passes that environmental report again, if somebody raises some problem, again it goes to court, again that review has to be done in for some certain different aspect, and that is how a lot of their infrastructure is being delayed. And I get why we would be afraid of that happening over here, but within that discussion and within that podcast, immediately he said ki there is a time bound solution. Ki, okay, you want to do environmental review, do it in a specific 3 months ka period. For building a subway, it should not require you 2000 page ka environmental review. You are taking people off of the streets, off of their cars, and putting them into a green transport method. There has to be a different way of doing it. So I think we need to learn from a lot of these discussions that are happening, because there are definitely some parallels across the world, and it's not like these problems are not solved across the world. People know how to build footpaths. Footpaths have been built since the Roman times. We just need to take cue. You don't have to reinvent the circle every time. You don't need to find what is the best surface quality for surface material for the footpath. People have done that. So yeah, I think we can move on to the next question. So yeah, you have mentioned the dissonance in planning and implementation when policies around urban mobility are analyzed and watched alongside reality on ground. The dissonance between the two becomes evident as detailed above. The policies focus not on local level interventions but on projects that operate on a larger scale. Thus, development or changes, if any, are patchy and usually led by local initiative. Dr. Amitabh Bhide termed it in the projectification of urban development. This again brings us to the Naina and the third Mumbai and Navi Mumbai.
Yeah.
So projectification of urban development, and this is evident through the heterogeneous quality of design, construction, and maintenance in different parts of the city. So yeah, I want to really talk about some of these projects that have come out of this.
No, I feel like in the conversation that we just had, we actually mentioned some of these in the passing. But let's look at them. Naina is still a huge project, right? Naina and Third Mumbai are still huge projects. They're cities in themselves. We can also look at, so the experience of walking in a Naina, Navi Mumbai, Third Mumbai is going to be radically different from, let's say, walking in the island city of Mumbai versus walking in the suburbs, versus walking in the extended metropolitan region. Sure, that is a given. But I'm talking at like myself and Dr. Amitabh Bhide, actually, we spoke at a much more micro level. So the Del Island Railroad projects are actually good examples for this, where the bridge itself is this like magnanimous thing that they are fronting as like, oh, look at the infrastructure development that we've done. They're also doing this for some of the metro connectors where, oh, this is the first cable stayed metro connector, this is the first O-shaped metro connector. The flash of it is bigger than the actual substance. And you know what, I'm not opposed to the flash. Okay, if that's something that gives you political will to build infrastructure, by all means, go ahead. But the flash of it shouldn't be constrained to that one rectangular bridge.
It has to be the system wide.
Yeah, it has to be a systemic thing. You can't just, so Colaba Causeway, I happened to visit it once last week, and before that it was many years ago. So many years ago when I visited, it was obviously, I mean, not a lot of it has changed at eye level, but you look up and there's those larger heritage lamps and like warm white aesthetic lighting, and it's a generally much more pleasant experience to walk around at night. I get it. That's a prestige street that you want to develop. I get it. But that can't just, and that was one of the like areas where I spoke to one of the residents from Cuff Parade. That person said that, you know, if you look at Causeway, the footpaths on either side of Causeway have a different vibe.
Yeah.
You look at the footpath on the left side when you're facing south, or the footpath on
all of the
side, towards the side of the gateway. That is a lot more congested versus the footpath on the other side, which is a lot more vacant. So I was told by that person, by that resident, that that is because the boundary of the ward passes through the middle of Colaba Causeway. And the guy on the left, who was a cooperator back then, is apathetic and apparently also like hand in glove with some of the syndicates. So that is why it's not developed. And the one on the right is apparently someone who's a lot more proactive, which is why that is vacant, that is easier to walk on, that is like a lot more, like the pavers are in place, there are trees there, all of that. So
I would like to add a fact that the image that you will have seen at the start of this conversation, where we are talking about the three demarcations on a footpath, that image will be from Colaba on the right hand side. It will have that vitamin boost ka juice center just a few steps before Lacoste.
Yeah, so that's what
Lacoste in the image.
Yeah. So, and I was there, I think, on Saturday, and quite impressive. The right side, beautiful. Left side, I had to constantly keep walking out because there's hoppers and all that. But then,
extremely congested.
The projectification of it is very evident there because that cooperator has done it only for his constituency, as a project for his constituency. But if you look at it, again, taking Cuff Parade as an example, it's become quite a hot topic in this conversation. But you look at the pavements in the affluent parts of that ward, the entire ward is not rich. Let's be real. There is Back Bay and the slums around Back Bay on one side, and the slums around Padwar Park on the other side. It's sandwiched in between those, and you walk from left to right in that entire ward, and you will see stark differences. I have photographs which I can pass on to you, Vedant.
Yeah,
Those photographs are taken not more than like 200 to 400 meters apart. Okay, in some areas it's almost like a kacha rasta, like dusty, everything's broken. You go ahead, there's boutiques and plants
yeah,
and trees and lovely, and then you go farther ahead, you see fishing villages, sludge flowing on the street, that sort of a
yeah,
thing. So projectification is only, like, to my knowledge at least, it's only done in your high profile areas where it has a high impact. It's not done in areas like a bridge will be a project, but its off ramps are not a part of that project. The feeder roads are not a part of that project. So your heterogeneous experience that you mentioned, that I'd
yeah,
written about, is exactly that, right? Like, it's been an aspiration for me to walk from one end of the city to another. I actually did that briefly when I did a sort of, so I do these walks with friends and family, and so I did one from Shivdi Fort in the east to Worli Fort in the west.
Oh
It's a
wow.
good
Nice.
2.5 hour long walk, packed good
Yeah,
walking course, but it will take you through all sorts of the city, and it will take you through these prestige projects also.
yeah,
So the projectification is exactly that. So you will see that happen around, in and around BKC. BKC is that big shining crown jewel in the crown of the BKC,
yeah,
of the BMC,
yeah.
and around that there's squalor. Like, there, like you mentioned, there has to be a standard blueprint for the entire city, right? This entire city, if you can do it in one area, you can do it everywhere. Like, that's my ethos, at least, that if you can build bicycle paths in BKC, what's preventing you from doing it in Kolaba? What's
This
preventing
is
you?
again, we were having this conversation, I think, a couple of days before, but during one of the meetings with a BMC official, he mentioned that the suburbs and the city have a different schedule of rates. So the amount of money that the corporator can spend also changes. The ward office can spend on the footpaths in South Mumbai will be less. It will be more than in the suburbs. So that is also a very weird thing to have a demarcation for.
Yeah.
I
I
can
mean,
understand for some heritage areas and all, you would want to spend more money to attract that tourism, which I don't think they are doing at all.
hmm,
If you would, especially the fort area has really gone to the tops in the past
hmm,
4 5 years. It's deteriorated to such an extent that I would not want to be a tourist in that
hmm.
space. Buildings are all nice, but the facilities are terrible. I mean, there is one video in which I had shot between the near Horniman Circle, and I was walking towards Flora Fountain, and within that 100 200 meter stretch, I had 5 different surfaces for footpaths. This is like, yeah, what is happening? There's no consistency even in what you're doing over here.
And that's also one great example for, like, the projectification, right? So now I don't think the BMCs, they've taken off all those signs, but when I was younger, I remember when I was in school, if we ever went to Flora Fountain or if we ever went to CST, there were these blue and white signs for
Yeah,
Heritage Mile,
handwritten.
handwritten Heritage Mile. It was from Crawford Markets to the fountain, which is
Yeah,
exactly a mile, the DN Road stretch. That was surfaced a different way, whereas your Perenaraman Street is surfaced a different way. So that is literally the projectification, a great example.
yeah,
Compare that to the average, and to your point of that being a lot more expensive in the island city than in the suburban areas. It's a little counterintuitive because island city is a lot better maintained than the suburban areas.
yeah.
If it's cheaper in the suburban areas, then you should ideally be doing more work, right?
Yeah.
It's just maths. But
Also, I mean, since you brought Nariman Street and projectification, biggest example is the Kalagoda precinct
hmm,
pedestrianization. They are trying to pedestrianize a space which was not pedestrianized. You had all of these cars
yeah,
being parked over there, a lot of people going to these restaurants. Nariman Street, which is to the north of this space,
hmm,
which is basically if you walk from the CST का southern exit, which is taxi stand वगैरह जो जहाँ पे है, that exit, you walk through towards Bombay Stock Exchange through these inner streets of the city.
Yeah.
That is Perinaraman Street. You have 90% of the people using that street are pedestrians. When the public hearing for this Kalagoda precinct was going on, we had attended that meeting, and we had suggested, I mean, whenever you're going to one of these public forums, I have found that it is better to be for something than being against something, to not be labeled as anti-development or whatever. And I immediately suggested, okay, it's fine that you are building all of this Kalagoda and all, great, good start. But I would really want this extended on Perinaraman. I want that street pedestrianized, because there are a lot of people using it to get to all of these offices around the Bombay Stock Exchange. And really, the Bombay Stock Exchange ka immediate vicinity is a really nice example to see, because it is blocked off.
It's blocked off. Yeah.
It is for security reason. You have all of these bollards and all, and you can walk on the middle of the road. It feels amazing to not have a vehicle honking, or there's the fear of a vehicle honking. Vehicle hoga bhi nahi, but still you would veer off to the corners of the road.
Yeah.
And this projectification really brings that कि उन्होंने कालाघोड़ा का precinct development का project बना दिया, but they're not looking at the actual footfall kahan pe hai, and to actually take that up much before something like the Kalagoda or Ranade Road or Lower Parel station ki aspas ka towards the eastern side. All of these spaces are much better candidates for pedestrianizing, but because they want it to look a European way, that is being taken up much before something like a Perinaraman Street, and that needs to change, right? Also, again, to quote not just bikes, like he mentions, the way Netherlands has done it is not that they went on a day and said, we will now take up this street and pedestrianize it, and take up this street and pedestrianize it, or build cycle tracks. They laid down a framework, and whenever that road was being redone, or whenever its time came to improve that, the policy was just implemented. Now we have the street, uska road bahut kharab ho gaya, it has too many potholes, you want to redo it. Now we have wider footpaths, now we have a cycle lane, and the cars have gone, there is space created for cars somewhere else. So whenever the country, so it's not this 6,000 crore concretization project, जिसमें एक ही बार में the entire city is dug up and concretization is done. It is when the given street is deteriorating, they are taking up that stretch, and then organically it is being, the entire city is becoming more cycle friendly. This is what we need.
Yeah, that's also a unified vision, right? It's not this corporator will do it this way, that corporator will do it that way. It's a top-down vision, so to speak, which I feel like we're top-down in some of the wrong areas, where we're mandating, okay, here you have to have so and so amount of parking everywhere, or we're mandating certain things where, like, I've seen this everywhere in the city nowadays, which has these British-style yellow diamond intersections. No one knows what they mean unless you Google
Nobody knows how to use it.
Yeah, no one knows how to use them. No one knows that you're supposed to just drive through them and not wait in them. But they're just being done at every intersection.
Vedant has actually brought it up a lot of times that no one knows the purpose of it, but it's like implemented.
Yeah.
And even with the issue of guardrails, or even like one incident that we had seen on Linking Road, Bandra West, where they were painting the median with like a rainbow color for like a visual or like an aesthetic appeal. So, I mean, in those situations, there is like a top-down sort of an approach where it's like decided and then it's implemented. But in cases like footpath surface quality, it's a very different approach. So it's like a very selective thing that they kind of go for. So.
And I think the only reason is that this is not a priority, because even the aesthetics that you mentioned, right? Every vertical and horizontal surface is being painted in all sorts of colors, which as a pedestrian, I don't really mind. I'm fine with it. But I've been told by people in my family who drive that it adds visual clutter.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're not going to be able to see, if I'm wearing a blue shirt and I'm standing in front of a brightly colored blue wall, it's not really safe for me either.
Especially in a city as dense, crowded as Mumbai. I feel there is a lot of value in having complementary like surfaces and visual things that can soothe us and calm us while we are uh, like walking. Like I think you mentioned for driving, but as a pedestrian, I felt it as a more of a problem because I am coming out of a railway station of a train which is extremely densely packed. And then I'm put in the throes of this terribly painted skywalk, which has we have a skywalk which is painted orange and yellow, and then 100 meters down it has these mosaic rainbow colors which are pleasant. Majiwada Junction has these rainbow colors,
The Lego, right?
Lego colors. Car mein, at least I feel because the vehicle ka spaces are much wider, it feels okay-ish over there. But outside a railway station, Thane station is the worst.
Oh, it's the
Every
worst.
time I have to look at it on the platform number 2,
Oh, it's dark blue
towards
in
the
color.
northern end, they have these Warli paintings done on a very gaudy yellow color. And I really don't want to look at it every time I pass by. I want something more soothing, blue color lagao, something like that. The best place that they have done this beautification is actually at Grant Road. They have this very nice soothing yellowish tintish.
Yeah. So I was just saying that slight side tangent that I want to take when you mentioned the visual clutter. A few years ago, I remember seeing TFL having released a document. They released a document called the Design Idiom, which was essentially a manual of style for how things should look on their stations. A unified design manual, which
I've
was
gone across this.
and I mean, I'm a little bit of a design nerd, so I love seeing all of this where, they're mandating that, okay, you need to use Johnston typeface this size. This is the point width. And
I had pestered Aishwarya by sending her a lot of these TFL documents when I was
That's
designing.
not pestering when I enjoy it. So not at all.
So I had gone across this exact document. We were trying to create these stickers to give out to our walk participants. And I don't know, this is Taylor Swift. So here you see the underground ka logo.
The rounder.
And upar ka, this thing you are not able to see, but this is exactly like I don't know what you are able to see.
It's
But this is a TFL style.
Oh, okay, got it. I saw it right now. Yeah. The TFL style, the ribbon and all of that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was trying to make this and make it look. Oh God. I was trying to make it look in that. I was trying to design Mumbai stations ke liye signage, but in a TFL way or in a MTA ka way. So I was going through this entire document and I was looking at all those Johnston typefaces, kitna curve radius hai kone mein, kahan pe kya hai, what colors are used. And I was sending Aishwarya beach, see, this looks nice. And we actually settled on the MTA ka design for our conclave that we hosted. So in that conclave, we created these arrows for the rooms and all, and we used the Helvetica signage specifically for that.
It was
so nice.
I also remember that the Indian Railways had recently, I mean, not maybe a few months ago, they released this document with the countrywide unified railway signage.
So 2 years ago now.
It's been 2 years now. Wow. I remember it being scrapped recently, where they just gave up on that idea, that whole Tiranga on everything.
Oh yeah. That is different. That was different. I think they had started it on Western Railway ka some platforms. But later on they scrapped it because distinction nahi ho raha tha. But they have released another document for
I
signage.
remember seeing that one, the one with the yellow and black, right?
Yeah. Yellow and black, and also this is implemented at CST.
The pink and orange and yeah.
That is where it is done completely according to the standard. They've replaced everything that is old.
I remember also seeing it at Thane station, and I think Matunga also has it, if I'm not mistaken.
Matunga recently they have done that. I think they started off with long distance railway stations. I've seen it at Kalyan, Thane, and CST.
CST was the pilot. I remember that they got it a few years ago. And I was very impressed when I saw those giant platform numbers.
I have the document. I can send it to you.
Please do.
It's
I
sent
mean,
to me by Rajendra Aklekar, the
oh,
railway
he's
nerd.
great. I love his work. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have all his books, and I love what he's written.
I have. It's been so long. I want to read his books.
I'll
Alt
lend it
Station,
to
to
you.
first I want to
Station
read.
is great. I have all station. I'll give it to you.
Oh, nice. Great.
But
We'll
yeah, I
do
mean,
that.
so, that was on like visual clutter, and I mean, I feel like projectification is in line with this, right?
Yeah.
We've seen this happen everywhere, and I think the only way out for this is just a good like standardization of it.
Round up.
We're not incapable of doing. We are very capable of doing that. We do it,
Absolutely.
and I think this is something that has occurred to me. And Vedant, please tell me what you guys have experienced when you've interacted with the government. Is that how to them with a draft? Like, let's say you build a draft document of standardized signage or a standardized like uh, I don't know, street surfacing ideas or all of that. Of course, not substantial infrastructure investment wala things, but smaller fixes that they can do. That in an Amsterdam style, that the next time you reface a road, you do it this way. How receptive
Yeah.
is the government to something like this?
I think generally they are very receptive of having something like this. The DWOD experience was really great because we came up with very substantial, actionable improvements that they can do, which were like so on Frere Bridge, which is now demolished.
Hmm.
You have bus stop which is directly on top of the
On the bridge.
which is on top of the footpath. So you have to walk on the bridge in front of the bus stop. So we had said ki you can redesign this bus stop. Anyway, a lot of people are not going to wait here for long. So you don't need to have that seating area over there. So and also it's a very narrow footpath on the so British era, very narrow bridge that in that sense. So we had suggested something which has a just a simple roof covering and a sign ki you have this is a bus stop. You can stand over there. And I was surprised to see this was done in May 2023. And when I was in a cab with Aishwarya, I think just after the conclave, I was looking out of the window and I saw they had implemented those proposals. They didn't tell us that they have implemented that. And same in the same presentation that I had made to DWAD officials, I had said that Mumbai Central Station ke bahar, immediately on the western side, there is this Bhausai Hire Udyan. If you have to get out of the station, you have to do this very walk parallel to the railway tracks, long walk and get out of where that larger park and the toilet and everything. And the thing is, you can see this park. There are two gates and you can see the other gate. You can easily walk through that and cross over. But that park is shut off during the daytime. So we had suggested that this can be made into a walk-through park where the gates are completely open and this will have a lot. This will add to the buzz in the park. So apparently, you really would not need any security guard to keep. It will just be eyes on the street effect. And one day I was just happening. I happened to visit Mumbai Central and I saw ki, oh wow, they have opened it up. They have redeveloped the park. They have added some nice seating in that space. So you can now just get out the station, sit at that park, and then carry forward with your activity. And they implemented a lot of these small things that we had suggested. We had suggested some more grander things also. A lot of these streets can have a lot more tabletop crossings and all. But we could not because we didn't have resources, so we could not follow up with get a BOQ ready, get it implemented and all, get the local MP involved. We could not do that at that time, but they were very receptive about all of these small things and they implemented those things. The problem which I find with the machinery bureaucracy is simply the lack of manpower. They just simply do not have time to focus on one thing. Constantly, there is something what Rishi calls firefighting. They are in a firefighting mode. They are not in a problem solving or in a systemic thing solving mode. So, a simple thing like demolition or a bollard somewhere sadly has to be taken up by the junior or the senior engineer. And it is not just there's no system in place which just lower level pay, it is tackled and it is done for. This guy has to get that call and he has to assign somebody to fix that,
Hmm.
which obviously takes up his bandwidth from designing things and laying down processes,
Hmm.
like cleaning processes कि 15 दिन में एक बार skywalk clean होगा या फिर 6 महीने में एक बार checking होगा कि whether the street signage, road markings, the junction box they have painted, is it visible or not? If it is not visible, it's fixed. So I think, yeah, what you mentioned is definitely that has been my experience. They are very receptive when you go forward with something very concrete and which is actionable.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So this again, this is a good segue to the next question, which is, in some cases, change is brought in through responsive and active local representatives, but this is not the case throughout the city. So I want to talk to you about your experience surveying all three localities. How was the dynamic different between these when it comes to the government?
Yeah, so when it comes to the government, I feel like first of all, reaching the government was a challenge. Like reaching the representatives themselves was a challenge because, uh, like something as simple as you'd expect a corporator to sit in a ward office or to have their premises around a ward office, right? So
Yeah.
my hunch was that okay, hey, I'll walk into the ward office, I'll get an appointment, and then speak to them. I was not allowed to go into the ward office when I said, like, when I introduced myself in English and Hindi, I wasn't allowed to go in. I switched over to Marathi and they're like, "Haan, sir, jata hu." Which is the first hurdle, right? What if I didn't know
Yeah.
Marathi? What if I was a Hindi speaking person who was doing the same project? And it's really baffling to even get to them, right? Like, I got a number, that
This
number
is
was.
what Rishi has to say. I mean, he can understand Marathi well, but he can't speak it well, and he is constantly like, "Arey yaar, Marathi aata mere ko to I would have been in the BMC. I would not have been out there."
So it is exactly that. No, is that I've always felt that getting to our representatives is the first challenge in itself, and finding someone else's representatives and getting their time is a challenge in itself. So I think one breakthrough for me was Dr. Bide, whom I spoke to. So she was easy enough to get to because I got her email through my advisor. So emailed her, set up some time, spoke to her, and then she gave me the contact for the MLA in. Sorry, she didn't give me the contact. She gave me the name of the MLA in Vileparle. She's like, okay, go speak to this person. He's good. I tried calling up their office. No one picked up. So I just, like, one day just got my stuff, went to his office, and I was like, I need to speak to sir. Please tell me when he's. And then, like, I was given a time ki, okay, sir, तुम्हारा अर्धा तास आने बोला. We'll call you after half an hour. I was like, fine, I'll wait it out. I prepared all my questions. I sat down and got him as a contact. His wife was the cooperator. So getting to them, and then from there, it sort of snowballed. From there, they put me in touch with someone in Seawalls, who was a corporate. I was not speaking to anyone in Seawalls, but that cooperator put me in touch with someone in Kafpare. And Mankud and Govandi, I had to entirely do by myself because there was no contact. It's a slightly isolated part of the city. I went there, found local contacts, and the local, I wasn't able to speak to a cooperator there because their office was always shuttered. Like, I went there on 4 or 5 different occasions. Never did I see during the morning, during the day, during the evenings. Never once was the office open. Asked the person sitting there, okay, madam, when will I meet ma'am? He's like, no, she's not available. Can I get a number? No, not available. So in that sense, some cooperators are receptive, particularly when you put forth, like, if I was not an English speaking researcher, I wouldn't have gotten that FaceTime with some of these cooperators. If I wasn't a Marathi speaking person, I wouldn't have gotten access to their offices. So that is, I think, one, like, thing from the ground that I felt. But also experiences in walking were radically different, right? So I mentioned a little earlier that I felt hostility in Kafpare, whereas in the other two study areas, no hostility. I felt eyes on me. This is Mumbai, you always have eyes on you. But it was just like, okay, who's this person in shorts walking around taking pictures of things? So it's curiosity, not so much hostility.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with curiosity, but hostility is where I draw the line, I guess. But yeah, and then the streetscape itself felt different. Like I've spoken about it, we see in pictures also, is that, uh, and this is directly proportional. The hypothesis that I went in with saying that there'll be a lot more connectivity with regards to wealth. So if you're wealthier, you'll have a lot more influence, say, in how you want your streets to look like. That held true. That hypothesis held true. Where like in Cuff Parade and Villeparle, it was a lot greener. It was a lot more aesthetic. It, a lot more functional. I would say the Cuff Parade was aesthetic, Villeparle was functional, and Mankud and Govandi was neither of those, unfortunately. And that holds true with the hypothesis and the broader understanding of the city that we have, is that money speaks. Wealth has a large factor to play in influence. Uh, Regardless of what our law says, that okay, we're all equal in the eyes of the law. In reality, on ground, policies are implemented differently. So that's one of the things that I had I saw differently, that while the policy is the same for the entire city, the implementation, and that was one of the research questions that I wanted to answer, is that it's being implemented differently in 3 different areas. And just the way that your political representatives are approaching you, right? So in some places, I was told, okay, come tomorrow, okay, or we're ready to meet you in half an hour. Or in some places, I was told that, okay, we're not going to meet you, or no response at all. So that if I'm treated that way, I'm sure their constituents are also treated the same way. Where in Cuff Parade, the constituents are on like a one call, one WhatsApp message basis saying that, hello, are you available to meet with this researcher? He's here, he's coming to meet me. I'm sending him to your office, meet him. And then that got fixed. Whereas like in somewhere else in Mankud and Govandi, I remember speaking to this one person who ran a shawarma cart. Okay, so an absolute like daily laborer sort of a person. He said that, okay, I don't even know who my cooperator is, let alone me going to them with my this thing. So I asked him, so how do you get your addresses? So he was working with this one lawyer who's on ground, not like that lawyer is involved in government but not in power. And that guy was like, okay, I approach sir with any problems that I have. Sir takes it forward.
But that's basically like the Odisha, I feel.
Absolutely. But people need an interface in between. And I think that was part of the reason why I chose these 3 study areas, is because in Villeparle and Cuff Parade especially, they have strong citizen bodies. Cuff Parade has a residents association that's very vocal. You see them in the news doing all sorts of NIMBY things.
Yeah.
We don't want a marina, we don't want these parks to be accessible to everybody. So
Also, this park thing that you had mentioned, the garden being privatized, I remember reading all of this in the news when it had come up.
That was, and they're very vocal. You see their like the residents association marketing everywhere across the suburb. So that was part of the reason why I chose them, because while other affluent neighborhoods may have it, they may not have such an outspoken residents association. They may be working behind the scenes. So that was something that I wanted to experience. And because they're so outspoken, they're also in touch with the political establishment on first name basis with them. So because the political leaders and the people in the residents association, they're all 40, 50-year-old, 40, 50 plus year old people. They went to school together. I was literally told by people like, oh, I went to school with them. They're at that level with them. Compare that to your Mankud and Govandi, where they don't even exist for the real person. And Villeparle was somewhere in between, where there isn't an organized citizen welfare association. Like it doesn't exist as such, but there is a cultural group called the Lokmanya Seva Sangh. It's 100+ years old. They've been doing all sorts of things. They act as a de facto platform. So that was one of the reasons why I chose them. And they they have these branches or shakhas which put forth citizen issues. So something called a Nagarik Dakshata Sangha is what they called it, which citizens vigilance group. They had that as eyes on the street. They had a cleanliness group. They had a citizen safety group, although they were not as in touch with the cooperator. So that does prove the hypothesis that I went in, that it is wealth that is a large defining factor in all of these scenarios. And wealth equals influence and so on and so forth, right? Because their network and their connections are also commensurate. Commissioner, I know the assistant commissioner will get that fixed. That can't be said for the average person. The average person living in the Cuff Parade constituency, but not from the affluent areas, can't say the same thing. Can't say that I can just walk into the corporator's office and say that, okay, hey, ma'am, there is no garbage pickup outside our house. They can't do that. Because that's what we have felt. And one conclusion that I came to from all of this is that you can't have good ground level walkability without active representatives. You Because they're the first people you reach out to, which is also part of the reason why you were mentioning, right, that the fort area has gone to the dogs, because we've not had people to listen to our voices. So that is, empowered local representatives don't exist. Prior to the 73rd and 74th Amendment to the Constitution, which mandated local bodies, Mumbai Municipal Corporation has been there for centuries. It has been there for decades. So we are, I think, ahead of the pack, and I think it's on us to actually evolve representative powers a little further. So the 73rd and 74th Amendments say that we devolve powers at the local body level. I think that is, again, I'll tell you as we go to the recommendations, is that I think that we should devolve it even further. Like, we're devolving at the ward level, yes, but a little more discretionary spending there, provided there are checks and balances. Of course, I'm not saying just give your.
I have some interesting anecdotes to add to that conversation.
Oh, of course, I'd love to hear of them. But I think this was largely it. And regarding sort of complaints and a lot of people speaking up, right? So in poorer neighborhoods, people are a lot more willing to speak ill of their representatives because they don't have a personal relationship with them. They're not doing this well. Where criticism was very hard to come by in like affluent areas. I had to dig. I had to ask them questions in the same question in three different ways. That, oh, are you having trouble dropping your child off to school? Yes, I'm having trouble dropping my child off to school because it's always gridlocked, because there is no proper drop-off system here. There is no buffer space here. That's why. So you ask the same question thrice, then they'll open up. And of course, people who had a personal relationship with the representatives also came with a lot of disclaimers saying that, oh, I want to be anonymous. I don't want to be disclosed. You're not going to publish this anywhere, are you? Please don't quote me verbatim on this. And so much so that one of the people actually said that, okay, if you're going to send this to the corporator, cut out these parts and send a filtered version to them. Don't let the corporator think that we as their constituents think ill of them, which is baffling to me, because as a resident, I would want my corporator to be in check. That I would want my corporator to know that, hey, you're not doing a good job. Please do a better job. Because back then, the corporator had just invested in resurfacing the entire thing in stamped concrete. And people were very vocal. There were older women who were like, we can't walk on this because it's slippery. In the monsoons, it accumulates water. It's just badly done. But don't tell the corporator. They might not go ahead and work after that, which is just baffling to me. And that's something that I saw. That was a stark difference that I saw in all three areas. In Vileparle, even though they had a personal relationship with the corporator, they were very vocal in saying that, I told so-and-so that this had to be fixed, and they did it. But this is not done yet. I'm going to have a call with him on Saturday. It's something like that. So that's what I was getting at. But yeah, that's about it.
Nice and proactive.
I just also wanted to add one thing, one blanket point, is that in all of these areas, because you mentioned political responsiveness, right? And this is something that I spoke about a little while ago also, is that they're only reciprocating to citizen requests and citizen complaints, like resident complaints. If you're a part of the floater population, you essentially have no voice, which is true for most neighborhoods in the city, because most neighborhoods in the city will either have colleges, workplaces, so they're largely very mixed. There are only very few areas which can say that, oh, we're residential only. like even something like your the areas around Nariman Point, the heritage Art Deco neighborhoods also, they have colleges in the streets behind them.
Yeah.
So very few of them can very safely say that we're residential only. Like Malabar Hill, it exists, but there is Sophia's, there are workplaces, there are consulates, there are embassies. People are floating in and out, but they don't have a
Yeah.
voice. So that is something
One
that
should
I
see the amount of people coming in buses.
Yeah.
I remember taking a bus from there. Again, this was with Aishwarya Sabi. And the buses are so packed.
Oh
It
yeah,
was difficult to stand in those buses which are heading to Mumbai Central Station.
yeah.
This is the same location where people are saying कि bus stop क्यों चाहिए या फिर footpath क्यों चाहिए. It's like we had a hard time. Like we had to leave one bus and the next buses which we had to board to be able to get inside that. And this is the originating stop. Huh? This is not like middle beach
So
ka
there's
stop.
like a long queue there.
Yeah. And this was on a weekend, I think.
So I,
Saturday.
I'm assuming lots of tourists there then, because Hanging Gardens.
Not as many tourists, I think. I think a lot of this was simple house help people in that population because this is fairly residential. There is, I don't know what that intersection is called, but most of it is residential. There are a few shops, but nothing touristy immediately. Maybe, I don't know, Bandanga, how far it is from that specific.
This is on the
intersection.
hill that you're talking about?
No, this is towards the southern part of Nitinsi Road, where
Okay.
it bifurcates into
This north of Kemp's Corner, I'm assuming.
No. Kemp's Corner is still very completely different location. Kemp's Corner would be this side of the hill. This
Right.
location was towards the Seawalls side of the hill.
Acha, okay. Oh, I got what you're saying. Like near Pradarshini Park and all of that.
Yeah, south of that, further south of that.
Okay, got it.
Closer to Varsha, actually.
So that's on the hill though. That's on the hill. But yeah, that'll just be like people working there and headed back home. So there's this really this is a completely unrelated point, but I'd love for you guys to read. So we've all heard of Vikram Chandra through Sacred Games, right? So Sacred Games was actually envisioned as a short story in one of his older books, Love and Longing in Bombay. There are 5 unrelated short stories. One of those short stories had Sartaj Singh and his constable. So that's where the idea for Sartaj came through, and he then made it into Sacred Games. But one other story in that is about a family, like it's about a rivalry that plays out. There's one story that I particularly like. It's about the dynamics between 2 wealthy families on the Malabar Hill and their house help. So really great sort of class dynamic capture that he's done there. And the rest of the book is really great as well if you're looking to get the ethos of the city, right? Like Maximum City gets a part of it, but that's also a little grisly. This is a lot more lighthearted.
Nice. I would definitely
Yeah.
give it a read. I think it's been fairly long. I would let's get towards the policy prescriptions that you have made in this section of the
sure thing. Yeah.
Your research.
I'll share my screen because that's a visual. Yeah. So essentially, there are 8 policy prescriptions that I recommended, and they're like I've put in a little key over here in the bottom right corner. So their policy prescriptions at the national, state, city, and ward level. So these then there's that devolved pyramid that we spoke about, right? So you start at the apex at the national level, where in policies like the NUTP, there should be a successor to the NUTP that comes in very soon. So I proposed at that time that there should be a standardized definition of walkability. That was the entire ethos of this research, that this research should culminate into something that we recognize as walkability true and unique for India. Not just walkability that is in line with what the West thinks is walkability. Walkability which incorporates our commerce, which incorporates the needs of our people, our climate, which is also important. So that standardized definition nationally we can apply. in line with also the technical thinking behind your guidelines. The second thing is mandated inclusivity for persons with disabilities in street design. Like, I understand that this has been done in the IRC guidelines that have come recently. And in the past also that's there, but in the NUTP it finds very little mention, like as an explicit section, because the NUTP is from 2014. The Rights of Persons with Disabilities of the PWD Act came in 2016. So
And also, there is no connection or overlap between the street vendors policy and our street design policy.
absolutely, they're
So
entirely
that is
different.
also yeah,
Because I think the first of all, they're prepared by people, they're prepared by bureaucrats in different departments. So the
Yes.
street vendors policy would be prepared by someone in like the commerce department, whereas the urban transport policy will be prepared by someone like roadways. So that is entirely different. That is the disconnect there, right? The
yeah,
intersection, they're first of all refusing to acknowledge that intersection. So I feel like that should come in the standardized definition for walkability, the first reform that I recommended. And the mandated inclusivity is, again, the law is saying that this is a thing. So Section 41 of the PWD Act does say that we need to make our streets inclusive and accessible for persons with disabilities, and uh, those reasonable allowances, so to speak, are not optional. They're not. The law isn't saying that you should do it. The law is saying that you must do it. So
yeah.
it's a mandate and not a suggestion. So this needs to trickle down into our policies as well. It's trickled down into our road guidelines, but we've seen that our road guidelines are seen as suggestions and not as like strong mandates. They're seen as guidelines.
And
So
there is a lot of gray area on whether these are guidelines or laws.
precisely,
This
because they're so
consistently
technical.
has been coming up with regards to IRC.
Hmm.
Yeah.
People ask us, and even I don't know exactly is it mandatory or is it not. I've talked to multiple
This
people.
exact
One
point
guy
had
has
come
said
up.
it is.
Sorry.
Yeah,
This exact point had come up when we were speaking with architect Zora. So she had also mentioned the same thing, that IRC is a policy, but is it something that needs to be followed at every level, or is it just a suggestion or like a mandate that that needs to
It's
be
also-
sort of
it's also commentary on our court system, because I've been reading this book, Court on Trial, which is about the Supreme Court, and I feel a lot of the problems regarding this is the problem with the way we handle court cases in our country, but also obviously it is a problem in the way our policies are framed. I remember vividly this person on Twitter, fellow urbanist, who said that he had won a case in I don't know the High Court or Supreme Court. Supreme Court, I think the Delhi High Court probably. That judgment said कि IRC guidelines are a law that are to be followed. Then I asked another lawyer friend of mine. He said कि नहीं, that is not. It is not the case. Then I asked another person. He again said कि it is not the case. It is only a guideline. So the way our courts function are also there's no, it's precedent setting is not happening. 5 different courts are giving 5 different judgments instead of one court giving a specific hard judgment and the other courts following it in that manner, so that there is some clarity in the way our whether or not this is supposed to be statutory.
Yeah, and I think that also comes in because IRC is an industry body, right? It's a council of engineers and not so much bureaucrats. So they're seen as being outside the government and not a part of the government. So that is why that ambiguity comes in, and which will be very easily like it can be mitigated if all of those provisions are put in the policy itself. Like you actually include that as an appendix to your policy. Sure, that's done, right? That's a quick and easy fix.
Yeah.
So having that mandate in your policy itself will change it, because that comes through the horse's mouth. The bureaucrat actually is saying that it's signed off by the minister. So I think that gets sorted if we put in that at a national level. At a state level, of course, a specific state-specific policy is not required but desirable, I would say. So the NUTP makes allowances for hill states. It says that hill states have a different context, so hill states should approach this differently. Like you can't recommend hill states to have dense vertical developments.
Yeah.
So that's why they have a different outlook towards that. But a state-specific policy, Maharashtra is largely flat. Given, like, of course, we have hills, but we're largely flat. We know
Yeah.
our climate. We're tropical through and through. We don't have a seasonal fluctuation. We don't have hard winters, that so to speak. Of course, in the interior parts of Maharashtra, we do, but it can still be accommodated. It's not as
Yeah.
harsh. We're not seeing snowfall.
It's not snowfall.
Yeah, we're not seeing snowfall. So a state-specific policy, Maharashtra has actually taken that into account, but it's usually in conversations, the NUTP comes up, but the MUTP doesn't come up. The MUTP exists, but is overlooked in every conversation. So a state-specific policy put front and center building upon the floor of the NUTP, not actually pulling that down. If the floor says that, okay, you have 1.2 meters, you actually say that, okay, in Maharashtra, we have so-and-so space. So we actually extend that to 1.8. So something like that, of course, is just an example. But
sadly, the BMC has actually created a policy of their own, which is the universal footpath policy. And it is worse than the IRC. In the city where you have more pedestrians, in the city where a larger percentage of your population is walking, they have cut down the IRC minimum of 1.8 to 1.2. And we have the first podcast we did with Zora was on the specific universal footpath policy. So yeah, people can, whoever interested can do that alone.
And yeah, so a state-specific policy is one of them. The other one is right now non-motorized transport, pedestrian infrastructure. There is no dedicated budgetary provision. It gets included in as a part of something else. It gets included as a part of road transport or city development or something like that, or specific devolution to municipal corporations. But there is no header. If there's a header, there is legitimacy. If there is legitimacy, then there is action. And so
this is one of the our requests in the pedestrian manifesto. One of our having non-motorized transport cells in each administrative subdivision having a minimum of 1 lakh population.
Right.
So there will be budgetary allocation. There will be non-motorized, improving non-motorized transport cells, transport in their wards.
Yeah. And I mean, that actually ties into the next recommendation that we have, which is at a city level, where you have a unified metropolitan transit authority, not just regarding non-motorized transport, but for motorized transport as well. Your TFL, your MTA are great examples. All of your North American cities, almost all of them have a unified authority. Chicago has it, New York has it, London has it, Paris has it, they all have it. I think in India, Bangalore took strides towards it through the BMLTA, the Bangalore Metropolitan Land Transport Authority. But now with I think just last month it was passed, the Greater Bengaluru Authority, the GBA Act that was passed, that is slated to come into effect, and everybody's hunch is that it'll take over the BMLTA. But
basically be like the MMRDA.
Yeah. So the MMRDA,
which is not that hands-on.
Yeah, the MMRDA is still like one level removed, and they only do certain types of
planning.
things. Right? They only do planning, and they only do larger scale infrastructure projects. They're not going to worry about Thane ke ye road
how to implement TOD along.
Precisely. They're not going to do all of that. So a UMTA will actually take under its wing all of your public transport bodies. So all of your municipal transport buses will come under that, which are deeply fragmented in the metropolitan region. So BEST is there, TMC is there, all of that. They'll all come under the UMTA, as will representatives from metro lines, as will representatives from the Indian Railways for the suburban railways, as well as the ward level or like local representatives can also find a say in this, but also most importantly, the pedestrian or non-motorized transport cells that you mentioned, right? Those can
Yeah.
also, for every administrative subdivision, can come under the UMTA. So the UMTA will function as a single window stop for someone who has grievances. Right now, if I have grievances, I have to hunt through a list of 10
Yeah.
helpline numbers. Bangalore again has been a little bit of a visionary in this through their single unified civic helpline number 1533, which we don't have an equivalent for. So a UMTA will help with that, a single helpline desk.
I am very hopeful about this specifically happening because there has been a lot of buzz about this
Mhm.
Unified Metropolitan Transit Authority. I had written an article for Citizen Matters on unifying all the bus systems in Mumbai because
Right.
that is the lowest hanging fruit that we can do.
Absolutely.
For getting like a railways and the metro systems, metro would still be easier because it is against Maharashtra government. But
Hmm.
railways are a national body, framework might be difficult. But bus systems are extremely easy because you don't have as much hard infrastructure on the streets. You have buses and you have depots.
Hmm.
That's it. So just getting those in sync would be a nice foot in the door to get a metropolitan wide authority, which where you can plan quickly. The rollout is also easier with buses. You just have to get the buses and start rolling them out. And the
And
biggest thing is also like ticketing. Ticketing has been my biggest problem. Whenever I go to the BMC, I have BMC limits. I have the MMRDA ka SBI Metro card. I
Hmm.
tap in best bus mein chalta hai. But that doesn't work in a TMT or in a KDMT or in a NMMT. I have to find change. Change nahi hoga to I have to listen to the conductor who's yelling at me. So it's small things like that. I think once we get that bus ka system in place, I think small other things will start being bundled into that. Hopefully, over the next decade, we see some of that being implemented. Hopefully, even before that.
yeah, that was exactly what I was getting at, because the NCMC has the right thinking in this direction.
Yeah.
So I feel like if that has taken off, as will the rest of it, because this is an administrative rejig. Shouldn't be that difficult for the folks in the government to actually get that done. But yeah,
Yeah. NCMC, sadly, I don't know. It's been what 4 years now since the NCMC has existed. More than
NCMC,
that.
I have a lot of thoughts about the NCMC, and not all of them are very nice. It's mostly just criticism because I don't like the way the NCMC has been implemented, because not
Mhm.
really a hallmark. Because uh, why is it bank linked? Why do you have to go through that long KYC process? Uh,
Yeah.
it's a whole thing. So yeah, and then this one at the city level is about citizen involvement in master plans. We again spoke about this earlier today, where we said that yeah, having people in is real voices, real grievances, shaping our master plan, shaping our policies. We need those master plans to mandate it, but at present it's tokenistic. So real citizen involvement is what we're saying. I get there are so many people who are passionate about the city. E- three of us in this call itself, if you call us, we'll come. uh, like the two of you are involved
100%.
with the walking project, but I'm not. I would love to be a part of these conversations. And I feel like this has to come with the reassurance that okay, we're not just going to get you in a room, listen to you vent, and then send you home with samosas and chai. It
Yeah.
has to come with the reassurance that we're going to listen to what you say and try and implement that, give it a fighting chance. So with
Yeah.
that reassurance in place, I feel like that is what I mean by real citizen involvement. And then finally, at the ward level, what we've been speaking a lot today about empowered local representatives, right? So give them power beyond what, like when I said discretionary funding, most local representatives are happy doing footpath work, happy putting benches, happy doing all of that for real walkability, happy planting trees. If they get like a little plaque which says courtesy of so and so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
most of them are fine doing it. They're very happy to actually go ahead and do it by themselves. Give them that discretionary funding. Uh, put
This is
put
where I really wanted to add because I really love this aspect of local funding.
right.
You in all of these municipal corporations, I don't know BMC में कितना होता है, but in the municipal corporations in the periphery, in like Kalyan Dombivli, Thane to some extent, Badlapur, you will see that very, very minor, very hyper local stuff in that, which will be like the this, so you know, everywhere you see everywhere the Aji Azoba Katta and the newspaper stands and all of those things. Sometimes those are encroachment, but some other things that I've seen them do in Dombivli, especially because this is a very dense space, extremely dense. It's extremely walkable. You will find a hard time finding a very wide road that you need to cross in Dombivli. And there are these internal routes that certain routes that you take in the city, which are completely walking only, because there are a lot of choke points that are narrow, so you can reach from one part of the city to another part without having to walk on the road. And the entire pavement of these spaces is done by the local operator, even though it might come in the private space. The guy also gets the street lighting of the space done. There are also benches and all the street furniture that you would want to sit on these spaces done. And a lot of these spaces are done by the local operator. And this has not come from some European idea of having street furniture, walkable. This is just citizen demands and citizen needs that are being catered to, in which has come out very organically, and that is done because the local operator has been given a 2 lakh ka budget which he has to spend somehow. So he's spending it on improving the lives of people and making our cities walkable in a certain way. I would really like that if he had 5 instead of this 2 lakh, if he had 25 lakhs, so he could have our parks stay open for longer. If he had much better signage, if the waste management system could have a QR code system similar to what we see in some of these corporate offices, where there is a log, this was last picked up on Monday or something like that. A lot of this can be solved if we empower our local representatives with more funding, more allocation.
And I think one other thing is that we do that, but also generate awareness amongst the citizens saying that, hey, your corporator does have 5 lakhs of funding. Get your corporator to spend it. Otherwise, they're going to spend it on like faltu things like palms on streets that don't need palms.
I don't think any streets need palms other than sea faces.
Yeah, in our context, absolutely not.
If you want to have a gated community which is very specifically wants to emulate Dubai, maybe yes. But I don't think you should be emulating Dubai in Mumbai especially.
Yeah, and so getting people to actually keep their corporator accountable, forget accountable, but at least getting people to know that, okay, hey, your corporator has funds that they can spend for you. That is a huge step, because a lot of times, a lot of the people complain saying that the corporator says that they can't implement this because they don't have money, or they have a long list of clearances to get to. Discretionary funding will do away with that, right? Like in Ville Parle, one of these things that I'd seen was that schools needed these volunteers or people to take care of traffic. So they put police mitras in place. Police mitras sometimes were free, sometimes had to be paid off with like some nominal payment. But the corporator didn't have the funds to sign off on that. So they had said that, okay, we've been crowdfunding and all that sort. But getting your corporator to do that will really make a lot of difference. So yes, increase discretionary funding through empowered local representatives and generated awareness. That's the first recommendation here. And the second one, local administrative networks, while it sounds very generic and vague, it actually means that most problems can be solved at a local level. You don't need, like, if your footpath is broken or if waste isn't being collected for the last 2 weeks.
This is where the Kunal Kamra ka statement means, "Mere ghar ke bahar go hai, kab saaf hoga?" I mean, something like that is very local, and something can be solved at a local level.
Exactly, and a lot of times it is solved at a local level, right? Like a lot, like this used to happen. Like my mom used to know the local cleaner, like who used to pick up waste. Who used to be like, "हाँ, यहाँ पे आपने 3 दिन से झाड़ू नहीं मारा. You've not cleaned up here. Please do that." he used to do that because like my mom had that sort of cordial relationship with him. But why must anybody have a cordial relationship with someone? Why must anybody have to invest some that sort of time in them? Like, it can be built at an institutional level.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
your operator anchor that. Have one cleaner, one maintenance person, one electrician, one plumber, or for a certain number of wards. That number, of course, can be fixed. But have that at a local administrative level. Get them to fix local issues. If there are loose wires dangling, why do I have to contact the municipal corporation and have a 2-week latency for that to be fixed? That can be fixed very easily by one electrician who will charge, I don't know, 100 rupees to get it fixed. Bill that to him, and then that funding can be sorted out at a BMC level, at the corporator level. So that's at the ward
Yeah.
level, and these are
This is a problem not just with like every single civic issue. I remember this time a few months ago when my grandmother passed away. We had to, prepare for the last rites, and so we chose a crematorium which is not that frequented. So when we got to the crematorium, it needed a lot of cleaning, and my brother and myself just ended up cleaning it with our brooms a lot. So, and some 25 minutes later, the local corporator, who was not even in power since the last time we had elections, he sent a couple of boys. Somehow they came to know via grapevine that there is going to be a last rites rituals taking place in this. And these guys had come. So there was no cleaning or maintenance schedule for just maintaining that crematorium in the ideal manner that it should be. So a lot having funding, having a lot of devolution of power will make sure that things like these, which are all the things that are taken care of by the municipality, will be taken care of in a more systemic, sustainable manner, instead of having to rely on an external people. Like you said, you should not have to have a good relationship with your local shakha pramukh or whatever.
Yeah.
no, and just one small like sort of caveat here is that one point of opposition that people will raise when you say discretionary funding is that, oh, but it opens grounds for corruption. And I just want to hear your thoughts that A, is this a valid point in this scenario? And B, can this be mitigated?
I think there's nothing a dashboard can't solve. Nothing in this a dashboard can't solve. Like if I go to the BMC, why can't I just check a drop down box key? Okay, K West Ford, may I open it up? I check what all corporators are existing on the. उसमें से each corporator, how much, where has the 5 lakhs budgeted to him being spent? What are all the exact things? Give an Excel sheet. I mean, people demand these things from us as a non-profit. Okay, मैंने donate किया, where is it going? We have a proper spreadsheet that anyone can check on our website. We have a pie chart which comes at the end of the financial year. कि हमने gimbal 9,999 का लिया. We spent 3,299 on a on this lapel mic that we need to get. Same thing can be done by the corporator. People can judge ki is 2 lakhs enough for a total station survey or is it too much. Let it be in the public domain. Let newspapers put it out ki itna paisa kaise kharcha hua. Let it solve it itself. Bring in the transparency. I think those things will fix on their own. Like this China, America, two countries which have a lot of devolution in power. You think of China as this authoritarian state which has a lot of top-down things, but it has devolved a lot of power to the local authorities and all. And it depends on how the local authority is trying to reach those targets. Now, obviously, we know that they have also been doing some overbuilding of stuff that they have built way too much housing than they need. But that way they have been getting stuff done. They have built a lot of metros. They have built a lot of cities. They have more housing. They can house their population twice, I think, is the statistic. So if you set targets and if you devolve them and have a good system in place to keep the things in check, I think it is more than enough to be able to uh, check any corruption, but also get things done, and get
And
things implemented.
I think like adding on to this and your previous point about empowered local representatives, that would like foster ownership about their neighborhood, and then again system to like follow up and along with the transparency. So
If my
I mean,
local cooperator had a little more budget, first thing I would say is ki demarcate parking at the local market, because we have very wide roads. We saw somebody died in a road accident over there, and immediately they removed the hawkers present on the edge of the footpath. My hawkers had nothing to do with the death. The death was clearly a drunk truck driver ramming into a two-wheeler, which was ridden by two kids who did not have a license. They got rid of the hawkers somehow. I thought the hawkers were doing actually what traffic calming ka ye ho raha tha, because there were a lot of vehicles parked in front of the hawkers who used to buy stuff from them. Now they added double decker speed breaker, and you see triple parking, quadruple parking. Now with the hawkers gone, parking has increased over that at that location. In addition to that, they put some political kiosk container over there. So you have just moved the hawkers. You go to my local cooperator and say, okay, do all these things, because clearly 2 lakhs is not enough to service this entire ward. If he had much more power, I would. There are 10 things that I could ask him to do. Simple thing would be road markings. First of all, zebra crossings mark karo, parking mark karo, add better signage. Lighting का कुछ issue है. Our parks, problem with our parks is that they shut off at 7 p.m. I would get the guy to spend money on hiring some security guards so that he can keep it open until at least 10 or 11 p.m. A lot of things can be done if locally we have a lot more money. Same thing if I wanted to get done by the KDMC, I would have to go to the ward office, the larger ward office at uh, the main head office, and then वहाँ पे go through the chain of command, and get authorization for appointing a security guard at my door, which is a big no. I don't have that much time to spend on this.
And this point about ownership is actually great because it ties into what you said about, like, let's say dashboards and information transparency happens, especially that you draw in younger people into this mix. Because I remember as a young person, I always felt like, okay, this cooperator is not going to listen to me. And also, even if he does, why will he care what I have to say? Because tomorrow, if there is a dashboard, I can be like, sir, you have 3 lakh rupees pending. Your elections are happening 2 months later. You want to spend it here, spend it on this. And while this does sound ridiculous in conversation, it's a very real possibility that it happens. They have spent, like, people seem to think that budgets are overrun all the time, and it's budgets are pending more often than not. Like that,
Underspending is a huge problem.
and it's not, that's because, like, lack of will, don't know where to spend, all of that. But having that ownership, getting younger people involved who actually, like, I feel like you get one thing, one suggestion translated into impact, that'll get like 15 people into the fray. And that's the snowball effect. Like, if you constantly feel like your suggestions are falling onto deaf ears, no one's going to give suggestions. So this is a great point. I feel like ownership is genuinely something that can be built through this.
Yeah.
Ownership is what will get us walkable cities. But yeah, it was a great conversation, I feel.
Yeah, definitely.
I really loved the policy part of policy recommendations part of your research, especially. It was so fun to read, and I was hooked. It was like I was reading a book. I really enjoyed that part.
And especially like the bifurcation of it, and with the granular level of your, the audits or research that you did. It was very interesting to read, and I felt like you touched a lot of topics that were probably not talked about as much.
And I feel like some of these things are like very obvious to us, but to a third person who's reading it, there's to me also, when I was researching it, I had like quite a few aha moments. Like, oh, this is so obvious. Why is this not out in the public domain? So I really hope that even if one of our listeners gets inspired, we all three of us will be happy to stay in touch over this. I feel like, yeah. So thank you so much for giving me the platform to discuss this. Because genuinely, after I submitted in 2022, I thought, okay, no one's going to be reading this. That's okay. I'll let me just put it on a drive somewhere. So thank you so much for having me today.
It was great, like going through everything, all of your parts of your study, and I will definitely give the
That is the
larger
thing.
documentary.
That is the thing with what we want to do with Walking Project is that a lot of this stuff should not go into obscurity.
Yeah.
There's no point in researching if the research is not being seen by anyone and being acted upon by. And it's like this is a problem with Indian systems. We do a lot of reports. We assign a new study every time we want to get something done, but we rarely build upon the existing knowledge.
Yeah.
And having access to this research would be great for people to build upon this. Okay, you have done some prescriptions for policy over here. What would this policy specifically look like? What would a draft of an act will look like? What exact clauses would look like for somebody working in policy? So that way we could build upon this. I think we'll add a drive link to your research at the bottom of this
that'll be lovely
podcast, and it would be great. It was a lovely conversation with you, Chaitanya. It was amazing. I still remember being so fangirly when you had mentioned about when you had mentioned your research during the community talk, and me just listening to all of the things that I have been seeing in real life being captured in your research.
And
really
that
fun.
was like translated from Vedant to me a few days ago, and he told me about it. And I'm like, okay, I have to read this. That sounds really interesting. And I mean, it was exactly how he had described. It was a really good. I hope, I mean, whoever's like watching this can, let's say in the future, build up on this even further.
My biggest hope is that AI takes over on our policy thing, and your research gets scanned by some robot, and then our policy changes.
That is lovely. Because I feel like at this point, this is pre-ChatGPT, so I'm very happy with the writing that I've done. And so now I am genuinely thinking that most of our policies are going to be AI written, because I've seen this in government that okay, आप क्यों लिख रहे हो? आप इतना time मत spend करो, ChatGPT से लिखो. So that's definitely a thing. But if that's what it takes for this to go out in the public domain and be a part of discourse, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Again, thanks a lot, Chaitanya. Thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you so much.
We'll stay in touch. We'll meet up sometime in the future.
Yes, please.
In the very near future.
Yes, definitely. If you're making any plans to be in and around this area, be happy to meet you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Or not even in this area specifically. I can travel. I don't have a problem traveling.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.